All right, welcome to the Dollar Dorks podcast. It's a podcast that we discuss strategies on how to build your collection, whether you're doing it to make a profit or just doing it to try to make your collection cheap or affordable or even free in some circumstances, like Derek here. So we go over that. We give you tips and we tell stories, and I sidetrack the podcast and piss Derek off. I'm Chris. I'm one of the hosts, actually the longest guest on the show. Also, Derek, the creator of Dollar Dorks. What's going on, Derek?
Oh, same old, but this weekend actually this is Barrie Game Exchange coming up. I'm not vending, but I am bringing some stuff to throw on other people's tables. So I got a bunch of stuff boxed and priced for that. I'm also bringing a whole bunch of stuff in boxes. I got like 6 boxes of stuff that other people are taking to other friends for me, all over the U.S. mostly.
Now, see, I've done that play that you've done. Couple of, was it the Retro Fest? I took some stuff and stuck it on Johnny's table.
Yeah.
And it turned out like he actually didn't sell it, but it was a perfect thing. I didn't have to carry the crap around. So when I did actually sell it, I took it and I traded like a Super Nintendo for some games, and then I traded a Power Glove for something else. So it kind of worked. I didn't have to carry all that crap.
Like a home base for you to leave
Absolutely.
stuff.
Johnny's so cool, man. He's so laid back. He don't care. You know what I mean? He's like, yeah, whatever. Just make a spot. And
I had a few people in the club offer a spot, and then someone else I had asked. So I'll just throw a few things at each table, and then I won't feel too bad taking up too much room.
Yeah, no, I tried to take up as little space as possible. I was just like, you know what, these are just some high-end ones. I don't really care about this other crap. I just threw it in a box, set it to the side. It's like, if anybody wants to buy any of this, sell it at that price. If they want to negotiate, just yell my name and I'll probably hear you. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that big of a venue. I mean, it's a big venue, but anyway. And then over at SoCal, he let me tuck some stuff behind his, because he always gets a booth, man. He's pretty cool. Actually, you know what? It was, yeah, I think so. I think it was that. Maybe it was a 2 SoCals ago. I don't think he did. Yeah, he didn't vend at this SoCal. No, he didn't vend at this SoCal, but at the other one, a couple of them ago, he let me leave some stuff at his table. So stand up, dude. That's really cool when you can do that. I mean, I even offered a kick down. He's like, nah.
Yeah.
It's nice when they do that. But I'm always looking to split a table. And someone's got some going. I mean, it makes it better for everybody.
Yeah. The only reason I didn't get my own table even is my wife's kind of like, we just want to walk around. I'm like, okay, then I'll bring things to put at other people's tables.
Well, I mean, there's something to be said about enjoying it. You know what I mean? When you're kind of anchored to the table, that kind of sucks when you're actually looking for stuff for yourself.
Well, and this one will be the first one we go to where we don't have a table and don't have a kid too, I think.
Oh, dude, that's...
Yeah, because we took my son last time, which he loved it, but...
How did that work? Did he sit at the table
playing? No. Or... Oh, no, he came with us when we were just shopping. But when we were vending, we brought our daughter the one time, but she was like a year old, so she just basically slept on under the table the whole time. Okay. Yeah. It was still a really long day, but...
Oh, I bet.
And she was sick. That was the reason why we brought her, is because we didn't want to leave her with a babysitter or grandma when she was sick, so...
Makes sense.
Yeah. I also sold a bunch of stuff on eBay too, and I saw that you did too.
Yeah, month has started off pretty good for me. I mean, no life-changing sales or anything, but I'm on a pretty good average. I mean, I'm at least off more than an item a day. So I mean, I'm always happy if I can hold at least an item a day average. I'm pretty happy with that.
Sold one April 1st, one April 2nd. I'm like, I need to get some more ads up. Didn't get anything second or third or fourth because I only have 4 ads left. So.
Yeah, I'm at 6 items for the month, so I guess 6 and 4 days. But I mean, I'm happy with that, and I'm really happy with the ones I've sold too, because they came off of pretty good buys. It's like when you're digging into the deep profits I mean, relatively speaking, you know what I mean? Like $30 off of something you've already made 90 off of feels pretty good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another 30, especially when you're getting them in chunks like that.
I had used the one that I sold for $45. It was Shin Megami Tensei Persona for PSP, and I actually bought it with store credit at a store for under $15. So under $15, which I probably paid nothing for, and then I turn it into $45 sale.
And it's
From a
nice to
store
turn
too.
store it well, it's great to turn store credit into something because obviously if that stuff that you traded in was good, you probably would have just sold it yourself. So you were probably taking stuff there that's a little harder for you to move and probably a little easier for them. Because with your shipping, I mean, that's kind of tough to sell a $7 item when your shipping is more than that over there, right? I mean,
Yeah, if it's a disc-based game, you could ship it fairly cheap, like for $2.50 or
oh, that's not too
$2.50
bad.
or $3.53, depending on the weight of it. But that depends if it's a disc-based game and in a good case, because I wouldn't want to ship a jewel case that way. But we were just talking about that on Twitter last week too.
That made
Yeah,
me think about something we talked about in the last release. I went over a little bit. The app, right? I was kind of griping a little bit about the improvements, quote
yeah,
unquote, to the eBay app for iOS. I did notice that now that I've kind of messed with it a little bit more, I don't know if they snuck in a little update on me or if it was there and I just didn't notice it, which I kind of find it hard to believe I didn't notice it because I'm pretty good at this. But let's just give them a benefit of the doubt and say it was there. I did notice if you scroll all the way to the bottom and touch it doesn't look very obvious, but if you just touch at the bottom it will pop up another sub menu, and you can make sure to turn returns off, and also if you don't want to do returns or turn them on, and that immediate payment required was also there. So that was a
okay,
big relief to me because that's the biggest pain in the ass for me because I don't like selling buy it nows that don't require immediate payment. I don't like to wait on people because I ship fast. I want to be paid fast. You know what I mean? Like I like quick transactions. I don't like people waiting because I really don't know how eBay looks at it. If I don't know when their clock starts, you know what I mean? I assume it starts when you get paid. When then now it's like, okay, now you have X amount of time to ship it. But let's say let's say they bought it on a Monday and didn't ship it to didn't pay you to a Thursday. I don't really know if those days count against your shipping time. You know what I mean?
yeah, they should not.
They
But
shouldn't, but I don't know. I don't want to find out the
yeah,
hard way. I just don't
yeah,
like it. Plus, I just don't like the lingering. I don't like it because also the other fact is their mental thinking on it. In their mind, it's like, man, this is taking forever to get to me because now that they paid, they expect it quickly. It's like, well,
yeah,
dude, you waited 3 days to pay me, so you know what I mean? Like, I don't even know if any of these situations are true or they're just in my head, but that's how I think of it. I pay fast when I buy. I pay immediately. I don't buy anything I can't pay for that. Like because
yeah,
some people require immediate payment, some people don't, or if you want an auction, what have you. I pay once I have the opportunity, like immediately if possible.
yeah. Same
If
here.
it's an
Otherwise, I'm
auction
gonna forget.
overnight, well, right, but I mean, I don't. I know both sides of it, so I
Yeah,
kind of want to treat them how I want to be treated, right? Like I don't like that. I don't like leaving people hanging. If someone's gonna be left hanging, I'd rather it be me in that case than it's on them. You know what I mean? But so I did notice that, and but I am still very irritated about this automatically switching some of your items to best offer. I mean,
yeah,
I've been getting these weekly. I'll get these little messages from them congratulating me now that my items are available for best offer, and I'm like, oh, I just have to make a phone call and find out if there's a way to shut it off. I did call and bitch, and I don't think the lady understood what the hell I was talking about. So I really I got to
yeah,
either call and ask to talk to like an IT department or something like that because the basic customer service is probably not going to be able to make that go away. And I looked through the preferences. I even went to the desktop site, and I mean, unless I'm just missing it, I don't see anywhere where I can turn that off where it doesn't automatically switch back. So that's kind of a pain in the ass. Because I'm like,
yeah.
if I wanted best offer, I'm very aware on how to do that. I don't need your assistance, eBay.
Yeah, I need to
So
listen to that other podcast I listened to, Scavenger Life, where they're
yeah.
full-time sellers, and they were talking about it. But I'm a few weeks behind on their podcast. I think I'm 2 weeks behind on their podcast. So they had mentioned it that it was happening, but I don't think I heard them come up with a solution yet. Because like they got like 8,000 items in their store.
Yeah, and that's fucking crazy. I mean, in that case, I'm sure you could do the bulk editor, but still, that's still a pain in the ass. You know what I mean? Like if you're doing it on your phone, I don't know if it's different for Android, but on iOS, there's not a bulk editor option unless it's in the Safari. It probably is in Safari, and I usually just use the app. So
Yeah,
I'm sure I could probably go in Safari and use the bulk editor, but I mean, still, you're dealing it on a small screen.
exactly. Yep.
It's not quite the same experience as on a desktop, and you're costing me time, and that's really, I mean, I don't like my time wasted. You
For
know what I
no
mean?
good
It's
reason
valuable.
either. Like no
Well,
good reason
right,
for us.
because
It's not benefiting me. If I
it's not
wanted
helping
best
me.
offer on, I would have best offer on.
Absolutely. I mean, it's benefiting them, but you know what? The thing I don't like is it's actually putting you in an adversarial position with your customer. So
Yeah.
now if you get switched to best offer and now you're declining their offers, well, now you're kind of a dick, right? Like
Yeah.
you're not
They're like, why'd you even turn best offer on? Like the example you
right.
talked about last month, I think.
Exactly. And
Where
to
you were
me, I
messaging a
just
guy with offers, and then you're like, what?
right, yeah, because I was even up to $1 under, and he's just like, no. And I'm like, dude. So I messaged him, I'm like, dude, like, what's and he's like, well, I didn't turn it on. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. You know, I mean, I understand that. I mean, if you're firm, you're firm, and I respect that. But I mean, if you have best offer on, that tells me you're willing to wheel and deal a little bit. But if you don't, then you shouldn't be put into that position. And I think they really need to correct that. But I just wanted to make that correction about the buy it now or the immediate payment required, because I did actually find that pretty much immediately after the podcast that night. I found it. So I was like, oh, okay. I was happy because, man, it was such a pain in the ass because it was. I mean, I still don't really dig their new. I have actually shortened my time on listing, so it is becoming a quicker process, but I still don't feel like it's as fast as I was doing it before. And I think they have eliminated the 30-day option, and now it's like good till canceled and I can't find a way to shut it off. I even go to the desktop and it seems like they're going away from that. Everything is good
Yeah, I
till
thought so
canceled.
too. And then I just looked at one of mine that I didn't post all that long ago, and it shows time left 15 hours.
Right, but
But it's still
I
good till
think I
canceled.
think there's a transition going on where they're weeding that out, and I could be wrong, but that is my experience right now because
Yeah,
I've
I do
gone
see
into
time
the
left for all
desktop.
of them.
I've gone to the desktop editor and I haven't. They won't let me turn it off. Like you go to
So it's
click
good
on
till
it and
canceled.
it won't respond. So
Weird.
again, maybe they snuck a preference in on me that I'm not seeing. And if anybody knows of it, please, hit me up on Twitter and let me know. But I can't find it. So that's another thing that's irritating. That whole and they keep trying to push that easy pricing, like when you're clicking out, like
Yeah.
when you're finishing your ad, that's that last thing. It's like, hey, turn this on. Like, no,
Not a
no,
chance. Yeah.
no, because I mean, but if you forget about it, let's just say, and I think it's every 3 days or every 4 days, it goes down $1. Not only that, let's say somebody's camping out on one of your items, right? Like, I don't know, man. I just
They're
don't
never
like
going to
it.
buy it if they just keep seeing it dropping and dropping and dropping. They're going to
Right.
wait until they can buy it for even cheaper.
In theory, yeah. I mean, I guess there's the fear of missing out might kick
Yeah.
in. Someone else might take it
Depends
from
on
them. But
competition and all that crap. Yeah.
correct. But nonetheless, it still is. It's not a position I want to be in. If I want, I am very capable of lowering my own price, and I do. If I see something sitting and I decide, okay, it's been long enough, I'll lower the price. But yeah, these are just a couple of their improvements that I'm not really thrilled with. Um, anyways, so you never did send me that thing. Where are we going to now? I didn't get it.
I sent it to you, but I don't know.
Let me double check.
I don't know what to tell you.
Uh,
I sent it to both your email addresses, but
I think your internet is garbage.
I know that your internet's garbage.
It can't. I mean, this not only is my internet fine, I'm also just pulling from my regular data plan, and it's not working.
Well, it
So,
says it's shared with one person, you.
hmm.
Anyway, it's
Well, then you go
next
ahead and
thing
move
is
on to
our last noteworthy deal pickup, purchase, sale. Anything for you, Chris?
Well, my last noteworthy thing is the one that's just kind of it's just repeating. It's the PlayStation I picked up last month. I picked up a PS2 with a pretty decent lot of games. The kid didn't know. Well, when I say kid, I think he was 17, something like that. His mom and dad were having a garage sale, and I asked him if he had any games. He said he had a PlayStation. I said, go grab it. Let's work a deal. So he brought it out. And it's a pretty decent stack of games. I mean, a lot of filler titles, but it had Final Fight. There was a PlayStation version of it, which was out of 30. I think I sold it for 35, something like that. But it was a PlayStation Fat, the PlayStation 2 Fat model, and those are notorious for disk read errors and stuff like that. So typically, I don't pay more than $5 for them unless you can prove it to me that it works. I'm not going to get involved because I have probably 7 of them that don't work. But I mean, I'll harvest the parts, right? The controllers and all that. It usually ends up working out if I buy it for $5. So he's just like, I don't really know, make an offer. I was like $20, and then he was like, he was going for it, but then his dad chimed in with like 50, and I'm just like, no, it's fine. It's just too big of a risk. And I just immediately just like, okay, thanks anyways. And I walk away. Right.
Yeah.
And, I could hear them talking to each other, and I heard son say something like, well, I don't really use it. So then, hey, sir, how about $30? I'm like, hold on, let me go back and look at it again. So now I'm just kind of looking at it. I'm like, yeah, there's enough here, because I double checked looking at it, and I was like, yeah, all right. But anyways, yeah, PlayStation works. So I sold it for like $70. I mean, that was including the shipping, and then the Final Fight, and there was like the Spider-Man trilogy. I mean, 3 different discs, 1, 2, and 3. Those I sold those for like 35.
As a set, I thought I saw, right?
Well, yeah, I sold them all. Yeah, all together.
Which is a good idea, right?
Yeah. I think it was better to bundle them than to send it, because individually I would have made less, because the shipping rates have gone up in the States. I wouldn't say significantly, but about $1, close to $1 more for first class. And I mean, it just adds up. You know what I mean? Like, I've been shipping more stuff media mail than I ever have, and I know there's people out there who want to argue whether or not video games are media mail, but I don't know. I read it. It says educational software, so I say all video games are educational software. Prove me wrong. You know what I mean? Hand-eye coordination, critical thinking. Tell me that doesn't fall under education. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, I mean, I granted, I'm not going to go to the court to fight the U.S. government on it, but I'll take my chances. And if somebody has to pay the extra $1 something on the other end, I'll refund them. But I'm not. Yeah. I'm pretty successful with it. I've never had an issue with it. Obviously, if it's a higher end money, I'm gonna spend the extra. I'll make sure it's included in the price or whatever. If it's a free shipping, I'll make sure my cost is covered, or I'll eat the extra $1. But yeah, I'm not gonna. In a $9 game, now you're throwing out another $1. You know what I mean? Like, it's just adding up. And I'm not saying it's still not a good value. Obviously, I mean, you're getting games all the way across the country for $3. It's I couldn't imagine getting it any other way any cheaper. But until the prices kind of rebound, because some of these games, like, even though the shipping has gone up, the price of the game hasn't gone up. The overall total. So, I mean, I don't really, I rather, and now that's actually making it more likely I'll just throw those in a box and sell them at like a swap meet or yard sale type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about you? Our shipping went up a little bit a couple months ago too. Not by much. Like, the letter mail for a regular like disc-based game used to be $3.33. Now it's $3.53. So 20 cents for something like that. Not much.
I mean, it's not much, but man,
every year.
Right. And there's no guarantee they'll only do it once too, because one year they adjusted the shipping rates twice that I remember. They raised the rate and lowered the amount that qualifies, went from a pound to 13 ounces, but then they switched it back to 16 ounces and then lowered the rate again, which was really weird. They must have had to do some sort of adjustment, but I don't know if that was like 2017 or 16, something like that. But I remember, like, what the fuck, But then it came to a point where like first class was really cheap. You were even getting up to like 6 ounces for about $3.05 or something. So I was like, well, I would be more than happy to always ship it out for that rate. But they've squeezed the ounces, because I've noticed, like, for instance, somebody bought something off of me, that Spider-Man thing, and I had it set for £1. Well, normally £1 was like, first class was like, on their end, it was like $7 maybe, but it's like, I noticed they almost paid $10 to ship that first class. I'm like, shit. So they've actually, I think they're increasing it more like that lower rate probably didn't increase as much as the higher rate. I haven't actually crunched the numbers on it yet, but I just noticed that, you know, because it cost me $5.25 to ship it to them, but it cost them $9 and something cents. So it's definitely gone up. I mean, they're almost getting into priority mail status. Well, actually, they are for that. So I don't know. I don't even want to know what priority mail is right now.
Kind of related. I just found out not long ago from Self Destructo on Twitter that Canada has flat rate shipping boxes.
Okay, is that new for Canada?
It doesn't look like it's new, but it seems like it's not well advertised, or maybe not in every location. So the small box was 14 inches by 10 and a quarter or something like that, by whatever, 2 1/8 or something like that inches. So like basically 14 by 10 by 2, and maximum 5 kilograms, which is pounds. I'll convert it for you. 11 pounds. With $100 insurance and tracking on it for $15.99 plus tax.
That's really good on the amount of insurance.
Yeah,
that's pretty 100
good. Is kind of the flat.
Our priority mail is 50, so that's pretty good.
Okay.
Our priority mail insurance. I mean, you can up it a lot higher for like $2. You can go up to, I think it goes up to 200. I might be a little off on that because it's been a while since I've insured something, but I insured a camera lens one time, which I'm going to talk about later. But I insured a pretty expensive camera lens for like $3, and it covered a pretty expensive lens. So,
yeah,
and you know what?
I've never gone over 100, I think.
I will say one thing about them, as far as their insurance goes, they are pretty good about that. I haven't had no issues, at least for the U.S. government. I don't know about Canada, but I bought something, and the lady, thankfully, she insured it because she, you know, bless her heart, she packed it well, but the idiot must have threw it off the truck, and it damaged it a little bit. I mean, not damaged it to a point where I didn't want it, but definitely damaged it to a point where it wasn't what I paid for, right?
Yeah.
And I just mentioned it to her. I wasn't mad at her because I can obviously tell she did a good job on packaging it. I just simply asked her. I was like, you know, I was like, I know that there's at least a minimum of $50 insurance. Do you think you can file that claim for me? She goes, well, actually, I insured it for the entire amount. Let me get back to you. And she refunded me the entire amount.
Nice.
Like she got paid and I got paid and I got
exactly.
free.
Yeah.
It was like, and I even told her, I was like, are you sure you don't want some of this? Because I wasn't expecting I mean, if nothing else, the shipping. Do you want the shipping back? She goes, nope. I'm happy with what I got, and I think it's messed up that, you know, it didn't arrive in the condition that you bought it. And I was like, man, you were just too nice. And she was so helpful. She must have messaged me like 5 times that day, and I was like, you know, you don't have to, like, doesn't have to be step by step.
Effort in, yeah.
Well, right. I mean, just let me know whenever you know, like, you know. and she had
end result, not every step of the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I wasn't, you know, I was happy that she was doing it, but I felt bad. I didn't want, like, I just wanted to let her know. I was like, I'm not upset with you at all. I mean, it was obvious because I've gotten things where you could tell the seller, you know, I've had video games sent in a plain manila envelope, you know what I mean, with no padding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was a miracle that it even got here. A box game, no less. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I was, what game was it? It wasn't even that long ago. I bought a box game and I was like, I cannot believe I got that without it. Oh, it was the Double Dragon. I got Double Dragon and was like,
I remember seeing a picture of it, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Double Dragon. I don't know. I put it up like it was a Christmas miracle or whatever. I don't know. I forgot what game it was, but I bought something recently. Last Christmas, I believe. But I couldn't believe it made it. I was just like, this is amazing that this was able to get here in a manila envelope and didn't get smashed. And I've sent games in boxes that gotten smashed. So,
trying to get my microphone a little closer. And next section is, what are we selling? Anything you want to mention that you're selling, or?
Well, I am actually well, I don't want to get into the real details of it because it's kind of Curtis's announcement. But me and Curtis did a deal, and I covered something for him, and he also wanted me to sell some things for him. And anyway, so I'm doing that for him to help him out. It's also helping me out because I ended up snagging a first print of the Nintendo Power. It was the variant cover I didn't have. Like there was a newsstand print and there was a subscription print.
Yeah, you had talked about that before.
Yeah, I had the subscription. I didn't have that. Anyway, so I'm selling his magazines right now, and got tons of watchers on some of them, man. Some of them, you know, from being watchers to buyers. I actually sold a couple items for him already, and so he's close to being even. He's really close. He's almost out of the hole. So I want to be able to give him a little money while he's over there in Europe, because I think that was the whole point. He's in London right now, my good friend Curtis. So I want to help him out so he can buy more crumpets. So
you're just walking into his house, open the door, grab some stuff, and start selling it for him while he's gone?
No. We hung out at the convention. Just he sent me home with a box. Yeah, I took it with me, and then I also got stuck with that damn. I guess I'll just talk about it now. That damn Cartridge Club mystery box.
Okay? Oh, yeah.
This box is a little out of control, man. Like it went from probably a really cool idea to being the Cartridge Club garbage box. Right? I'm looking through it now. Granted, I mean, hey, everybody has different tastes. Yeah. I get that. I totally get that. Right? I mean, some guys might be in the Xbox, some guys might be in whatever. I get all that, but I see some items in there. I guarantee nobody's taking these items.
I think it's maybe a good idea for you to contact P1 and send pictures.
I did. He told me is to my discretion to thin this out. And I actually thought about doing is whatever I take out, if somehow I could, and I'm not talking about taking out anything of value. I'm talking about taking out garbage. There was some, Chris R. I forget his last name, but bass guy.
Yeah.
He put in some nice items, and I looked at it and I thought, damn, that's pretty nice. I mean, he put in some pretty desired NES cartridges in there. You know what I mean? Like $30 titles, a couple of them. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the spirit. Obviously, you don't put in something you can't live without. You don't put in something that's going to hurt. But I think and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody because, frankly, I don't know who put in what. I mean, there is a book that kind of talks about it. Yeah, and it isn't the point. It's not really putting in. It's not that I don't want to come off as that. That's not what I mean. Because I do. Ultimately, I think the most valuable thing out of the entire box is actually that little book of memories. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Yeah, the little diary that everybody's supposed to sign, and like the dogs put in some family photos in there, and P1 has some family photos in there, and
accidentally, which started that whole trend.
Correct. But I think it's cool. I think that idea of it's really great. So I'm gonna try to thin out some of the stuff, and whatever I take out, if I can get anything for it, I was just gonna donate the money back to the Cartridge Club, to the Patreon or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want anything out of it. I mean, it really there's nothing in the box I truly need. So I'm gonna pretty much just add some stuff that I think is cool and take out some sports titles and some stuff that I don't think anybody's gonna want, and I'll see whatever I can get.
Do you know when you received it? Like when you got it from Curtis? I want to write it down in my spreadsheet.
I received it. I would have to look up. It was last month. Okay. It was last month when we went to the convention. Was it last month?
Sorry.
Has it been 2 months already? Has it? It has, hasn't it?
I was gonna say Curtis has had it since December. At least.
Right. And I haven't been lagging on it, but it's for one, it's going to be not a cheap box to ship, which I don't care about that. I'll eat the cost.
Yeah, that's not it. It's just.
But timing for me. But I wanted to be able to put a few items in there that are cool. That I think, at least coming from my perspective, the next guy might get it and think I put in garbage, but I'm going to try to put something in there that I think someone will like and try to get the spirit going. And plus, I got to find someone. Hopefully, Matt Bandy isn't listening to this, because what I'm really going to do, between me and you and whoever's listening, and don't tell him, I'm going to go to Matt Bandy's house soon, right? Mm-hmm. And when he's not looking, I'm going to sneak that box into his house or to his car or whatever. And then as I'm driving away, I'm going to text him to let him know. So then I won't have to pay shipping. But I'll probably see. I'm not going to do what a Curtis did. Curtis dumped it on me and didn't even offer to contribute to the damn thing.
What
like
a
money wise.
what a
What a
jerk.
I mean, it's my good friend Curtis, but he's such a jerk.
He was your good friend Curtis.
He's my good friend. Now he's just like my friend Curtis. He might have dropped down a level.
This
on
guy
that.
I know named Curtis. I don't know.
We used to go to karaoke together and hang out at conventions. But yeah, so I do have the Cartridge Club box, and I will try to dump it on Matt Bandy soon. So nobody warn him. If you warn him, I'm gonna send it to you, and I'm gonna add a couple of bricks to it or something. Well, that'll hurt me.
That'll hurt you, not them. Yeah.
I'm gonna send. Oh, you know what I'll do is I'll send it media mail in a box that heavy. They might open, so when it gets to you, you'll be due the postage.
Media mail. And then you red flag yourself for media mail. Hey, he abused the media mail.
Right, I'll tip it off. I'll find one of your addresses.
All right, where are we now? That was a nice derail. Stuff to sell. I mean, I got random games, controllers, chargers. That's all. I'm gonna take stuff to the Barry Game Exchange. You're gonna keep posting on eBay. See what happens.
How many laptops do you got behind you? Is that 3?
Yeah, there's another one over here. It's just old ones that I don't use or family members gave me because they died. It's stuff to fix that I'll never get around to.
You mean the laptops that died, not the family members?
Yeah, it's laptops that died. Yeah.
You might want to clarify that.
I don't even know how I said it now, but I meant the laptop died. They wanted me to fix it.
Your family members gave it to you because they died.
Not that way, the other way. All right. We're going to do a quick break.
Hey there, this is Josh, also known as Frantic from the Frantic Thoughts podcast. I'm here to tell you about one of the funniest and most entertaining podcasts I listen to, the Polykill Podcast. The premise is simple. 2 friends, Jake and Travis, sit around once every other week and chat about all the games they beat, games they're looking forward to, and usually a random topic of conversation. This show always is a bright spot in my podcast queue, and each episode is better than the last. You can find them at polykill.com or anywhere you get your podcast.
So, next section is Tip Corner, and I have nothing.
All right, I'll try to keep it's not really that involved, but tips. Check all your shipping options. I know I've gone over shipping as far as like media mail and stuff like that, but so just taking that out of the equation. Let's just say you don't want to risk it. You just want to go first class or priority. I just had someone who sold me something or whatever, and I was trying to coach them into shipping it a certain way, and they didn't want to do it. And then
media mail,
right? They didn't want to do it because they think, oh, what if? And I'm like, who cares? It'll be on my end anyways. I'll take the risk. It's going to be on me. But whatever. They didn't want to do it. So I'm just like, fine. So then they come back and like, the shipping was $23 or $22 or something like that. I'm like, and I know what they're shipping, and I know it could fit in a medium flat rate. And they said it was too much for a medium flat rate. And I'm like, did you try because there's a small medium flat rate that's just like a little cube, but then there's also a long medium flat rate,
like a book-shaped one, like that style.
Well, I don't have one around here.
It's rectangular anyway.
Right. It'll be kind of like this. All right.
Okay,
maybe not as big. It'll be like this. All right.
Yep.
And he was leaving it up to the post office because he told them I want to ship it the cheapest possible way. I doubt they did it cheap because you can even ship it ground. You don't have to ship it priority, and that's even a little cheaper. So don't expect that the post office is gonna. And plus, I could have PayPal'd him $1, and he could have just printed the label through PayPal. And you would get a shipping break. They'll give you a discount. I mean, it doesn't matter because ultimately I'm probably just losing sleep over like $8, but to me it's just kind of the principle of it. Not with him, not at all. Not with him at all. It's the fact that they steered him wrong, and there was not a good communication between me and him, which could be just as much my fault as his fault. I'm not blaming any. It's not about him. It's not really about anything in particular. It's just about don't leave The post office don't know half the shit that they do. Trust me. I educate the women down at my post office, and they're smart. I mean, it's not about mansplaining or nothing like that. It's I tell them about certain things they're not even aware of. You know what I mean? Because
exposure is probably the difference. They're just don't exposed to it.
They're exactly. It's not really I don't want this to come off as chauvinistic. It's not about. It just so happens that just women work at my post office, but it's a small one. But I mean, the people who work there, I tell them about. Well, this costs this, or this is that, and they're like, oh, they weren't aware of it. I'm like, yeah, it's on your website. You know what I mean? Like.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and you can't expect them to know everything, but at the same time, it would be nice if they did.
Because when I've gone there, I've asked them about something like, because they're always trying to like, you know, when they tell me about media mail, well, you're only supposed to send this. It's like, well, I've actually read it, and there's some interpretations to be met. And then, you know, the person who I was talking to, they sent me something from like the Postmaster General that claimed that video games weren't covered, but yet it also says educational software is covered. So what do you say? What about Donkey Kong Jr.? You telling me that's not educational software? So where are we splitting hairs here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Software is what? Software can be anything. It doesn't have to be on a disc because software used to be on floppy disk. That's not a CD disc. You know what I mean? So I don't really think now. Granted, don't like I'm doing stupid stuff like shipping Xboxes media mail, and obviously that's me breaking the rules. I get that, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about actually going within the guidelines with their wording that I have read. Okay, like I read it right on their site. It says educational software is covered. I will make the argument that every video game is educational software. It just is.
So when you sell the Xbox, just make sure there's one educational game on there, and you're good.
I'll just stick a book in there, and I'll just say, "This is." I don't know. This is just.
Put one PDF on there. Put a PDF on the hard drive.
Right.
Yeah. Educational. Yeah.
Educational software. It's all inside that
Done.
plastic container. It's a book. It's just a case. It's not a video game. That's a shell holding the educational software inside of it. I mean, I sent the DVD player recently, and it was fine. But I'm not saying like one time it's not going to bite me in the butt. I'm sure it will at some point. But that's not, like I said, it wasn't really about
if you
focusing
can save $800, that one time isn't going to hurt.
Correct. Yeah. I have saved more money than it's going to cost me in the long run. I know this. And at some point, if it ever does, and if a buyer ever contacts me and says, hey, there was some postage due, I will make good on it. I'll take the risk. But that's not what I was talking about. I was actually just talking about the various, there's flat rate boxes, but then there's also regional boxes. Some boxes go to particular regions in the country, and it's a cheaper rate. So check on these things. Also, you can actually have these things shipped to your house for free. You can go to the United States Postal Service website, and they'll ship them to you for like a penny or something. So it's not technically free, but they charge you like a penny or something. And they'll ship you a whole box. Like if you're into mass shipping like I am, you might want to have this stuff to the ready so you don't have to go looking for it. A lot of people will take the small flat rate boxes and they'll wrap them in brown paper so they don't have to pay priority. You know, there's that angle. Of course, it's a little shady, but I know people who do that because I get them all the time. People sending me stuff at any time. Because to me, it's like, that's the biggest giveaway, man. Like, at least stick it in a poly bag. You know what I mean? Like, they'll wrap it in like a garbage bag. You know what I mean? Like, I've had stuff literally wrapped in a black garbage bag or a brown paper sack, you know what I mean? And you know what's inside of it because it's the right size. I mean, it's, you know, those little small flat rate boxes.
I don't know them, but yes, I know what you mean.
Well, they're small.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't need to see it.
They're about the size of this, but they're white. But they're a standard size. You know what I mean? They're very uniform size, and they'll send them off in that. But you can get all this stuff sent to you, and also it can actually, let's say you really want to kind of save a little extra, right? You can go to, there's sites that sell poly bags really cheap, like a nickel a bag, right? And granted, there's no padding in that, but then you can also go to the United States Postal Service site and get their overnight. They have their poly bag or their bubble mailers, the Expedia, or I think that's the way they say it. Whatever.
Expedia.
They're over. Quick shipping, you know, like overnight 2-day shipping bubble mailers. You can stick it in that and then stick it in the poly bag. I mean, don't get caught, you know, full disclosure. But ultimately, what'll end up happening is I don't think they're going to send the mail police after you. They would just charge the shipping rate. I don't know if they're. I don't think you're going to go to the can for doing it, but it is an option. So if you want some crooked options, there you go. But the good options,
This is your guy.
right? But the good options out of that, the ones that might not be shady, is definitely just check all the different flat rate boxes that are available to you, because there are regional boxes that they don't tell you about. Not every post office has them, but they are on the website. And there's certain, especially if you're selling, like I probably sold more video games to Virginia than any other part of the country. I don't know why. There's just like a hotbed of collectors that, and I've sent tons and tons and tons of games to Virginia. So let's just say there was a regional box for that area, right?
Yeah.
That might save me some money. I'm not saying that's the case, but it's a possibility. Also, whenever you're shipping within your own state, sometimes they're region like region A, region B, region C. Sometimes that is a cheaper route. Now I'm talking priority mail here, not first class, because anything that comes from them is going to be priority mailing up if you get it for free. Any of their priority mail boxes are free, but they also have flat rates to them. So there's no weight isn't an issue, but sometimes it can hurt you. Sometimes it's better to ship it in a smaller box. And even though it's still priority mail, it'll still be cheaper than their flat rate. But those are starting to get really close now that the prices have increased. I have noticed that a lot of times the boxes, like a package I would send in a regular box that I have around the house, let's say it was 20 ounces, used to be cheaper than shipping it in a flat rate box. And now I've noticed that it's starting to get cheaper to ship it in a flat rate box. So just double check your options. And also it's always good to have spare boxes. So if you're buying a lot of stuff, like let's say you have an Amazon Prime account and someone in your house has a shopping addiction and they're buying a lot of Amazon boxes, maybe find a spot in that garage for them because it's going to help you out because I mean, I literally have
not a stack of them right there.
I have not bought a box in probably 3 to 4 years. Now I have bought some padded mailers, but those are pretty cheap. You can get pretty good boxes of those at Walmart. But
I bought some boxes when I sold some Funkos.
Yeah, man, I hate buying boxes because all it's doing is chipping away. Because I mean, typically they're gonna be. You could go to Walmart and get some decent sized smaller boxes for like 60 cents.
I sold one Funko for like $80 and the other one for like. So
yeah,
I just bought the boxes because I wanted to protect it.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. If you're selling, I mean, here's a bonus tip. If you're selling collectibles, and especially if it's an $80 collectible, man, do it right and bubble wrap that. Do it, just because it's in a box doesn't necessarily mean there's not going to be dings.
And it was a loose figure, so it wasn't a box in a box.
Well,
otherwise I would have double boxed it. I would have put a box with padding inside of another box.
Right, because like I have this one I'm gonna list. It's about a $25-$30 figure, and I'm going to put a bubble wrap around it, and then I'm going to ship it into this box. And I'm going to make sure it's not, I'm going to make sure it's secure. I'll put I have some bubble, those little packets,
the airbag.
Airbags, there you go. I'm going to probably stuff a couple of airbags on top
courtesy of Amazon, right?
Yes. Amazon, man. Amazon has to be the world's largest airbag dealer in the country because...
And box deal, box supply.
Can you imagine having that contract with them? They might be producing their own boxes at this point.
They have their own labels on them, don't they?
Or they do, but somebody could produce them for you and put that on there. But I mean, I mean, that guy's so rich, he's probably created his own box company. Why wouldn't you? He don't want to give none of that away. I mean, he's giving enough away to his wife.
I came up with a tip. So I had a game. Is a story and a tip. I had a game. It was Ghostbusters for PS3. I had listed it on eBay and sold. I had listed it as complete, but I did not realize that the manual was actually French, not English. So the guy who bought it contacted me and said, "Hey, I want to return this." Well, number one, I have returns off. Number two, you can always go the other way. Number three, he messaged me directly, not filing a return. So what I did is I happened to have another copy of that game. So I just said, I'll ship you out the manual. I've got another English manual here. I'll just ship that out in an envelope. It'll be $2.15 for me. and I made sure. I think I actually put bubble wrap around it as well, since I had extra height to deal with, or to help with. So shipped that out to him, and he was happy. So
That's
lucky I
good. And,
copy. But if I had been smart, I would have checked the language of the manual, because everything else
well,
is the same.
right.
Once you open to the first page and you're like, the index, it was all French. I didn't realize.
That actually worked out in your favor very well, because I mean that could have been a cost you a return for something as stupid as French language, but not that the French language is stupid, but the French language manual. But yeah, that was fair. Yeah, it's funny too, because I realize sometimes on returns people are lazy when it comes to that point. That like I sold a tabletop Dracula. I think I talked about it a little bit, but
the second one.
Still, and I have another one here, and I know it works, but I was still willing to, because I mean it was a high end item. Like I sold it, I don't know, 130, something like that. Yeah. So I was willing to swap it out. I said, hey, if you want to ship it back to me, you pay the shipping to ship it back. I'll pay the shipping and ship it back to you. We'll both take a hit on one of the shipping costs, but I'll ship you out another one because I know it works. But I understand you're having some issues, and I have one here, and I'll be happy to swap it out for you. And she asked, how do I do that? And I just said, just stick it right back in the box that it came in, just to keep it simple, and because that way it'll all fit and it'll be snug. And just go down to the post office and tell them what you're doing. And she never did. So, I mean, hopefully she figured it out, because I know it worked, because they were both.
Yeah, that's true. They did work for you, so it's not like.
They both played the exact same way. So if one was broke, they were both broke. That doesn't make any sense. I bought it from two different people at two different times.
Well, and has she ever used one before or not?
Well, she claimed she did. She claimed it was a childhood thing, and that's why she was buying it. And I wasn't questioning her. I mean, I was like, you might be right. I mean, they both did the same thing for me, but I'm more than willing to swap it out for you. But I don't want to eat this return. You know what I mean? It's just
especially when you have another one.
Correct, and I don't have no emotional attachment to it. Frankly, I would have just sent her the other one for free. I don't even care. I'm in at like $10 on both of them.
Give another 6 months and sell the other one on eBay.
Right? Yeah, I know. That's kind of I don't want her to get involved right now. Give her enough time so her return expires. I think it has at this point, because she bought it before Christmas, so I'm pretty sure it's expired now.
Yeah. But, all right, the next thing is our top threes.
Right.
Something we're just. Go ahead. No, you do it.
All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over 3 different top threes. One is gonna be our best pickup for our collection. So that'd be like something we found out in the wild. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a yard sale or whatever, but just something that we've gotten that was pretty cheap, and maybe the value was higher or the emotional attachment to it was high. And the second one we're gonna do is something that we always kind of look out for at yard sales or thrift stores or whatever, whenever we're out flipping. So just like an item that we typically, that sells well for us, and something we're always looking for. Now, there's going to be obvious ones, like obviously video games as abroad, obviously video games. But so we're going to try to be a little more specific than just saying, oh, well, I'm out there, I'm looking for video games, because no shit, but he is. So, so if we do pick a video game, it might.
Damn it! There was my whole list.
Okay. But just be specific. That's all. And then the third one we're gonna do is like our best flip, like something that we bought at a yard sale or a thrift or even at a video game store. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the largest profit margin, but it might just be. It could be, something we bought really cheap that sold for a lot, but it also kind of like a good story behind it. So. I know there's a few things that I've actually flipped for higher and bigger profit, but these are 3 that came to mind that I'm always happy to retell the story, and it always brings me a little bit of pleasure. So, so how you want to do it? You want to do just do each 3, or let's just go ahead. You do your top 3 finds for your collection.
All right. So first thing that came to mind for me was so when I was a kid, we had SNES. One of the games we played a lot was Turtles in Time. When we kind of grew out of the SNES and we had N64, my younger cousin asked to borrow the SNES. We let him borrow it, and he was not reliable at all. We never should have let him borrow it, but my parents didn't want to tell his parents no. So we got it back like months later, probably after asking tons of times. But Turtles in Time didn't come back. It was the only game that didn't come back, as far as I remember, of our original games. So I wanted Turtles in Times because I got the original stuff from my family. My brothers didn't want it, so I got the SNES games and everything. And Turtles in Time wasn't there, so I'd asked my mom, and then we figured out all this crap. But I wanted to get Turtles in Time, so I had store credit at a store years ago. I found a guy on Kijiji selling Turtles in Time, but he wanted, I forget how much he wanted for it. It was kind of expensive in here, in this area. Even though price charting only has it at 40, it seems to sell locally for like 80. But he also was interested in, I said, is there any games you're looking for? And he wanted Final Fantasy 2, I believe, for SNES it was. So I went to my local game store, used my store credit on Final Fantasy 2, then met up with him and did a trade for Turtles in Time. So, I mean, I would have got that way cheaper than what I had paid for it, because I used store credit on stuff I got
assuming your
cheap.
store credit. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm assuming the store credit was stuff that you probably couldn't necessarily flip yourself, and it or would have been.
Well, at that time, I think I was taking in a lot of stuff, but it was still stuff that I had paid nothing for and got tons for. So that game store wasn't the best for store credit, but they do a wait list. Was one cool thing about them. You could say, I'm looking for these games, and they'd write your name down beside that thing in their list. So when one came in, they'd go through all the people who were waiting for it and call them and say, do you want it? Do you want it? So it's kind of neat, but they had other problems with that store, but it seems better now, apparently. Anyway, that's number one. Do you want to go back and forth, or do you want me to do all three?
Okay, let's just go back and forth. Okay, so I was what I do for a living, I drive school bus, and one of the days I was coming home and I noticed that there was this really large sign. It was you could tell when someone puts a little bit of effort into a yard sale sign, because like this was like made out of wood and they used paint. So I'm like, oh, it caught my attention, and it said Saturday, right? Well, I try to remember like, hey, I need to go to this yard sale Saturday. Anyways, this was like on a Tuesday or something. So about time Saturday came along, I kind of forgot about this sign because I didn't necessarily take that same path every day. Yeah. So I kind of forgot about the sign. So I decided, I got up that morning. I'm like, all right, I'm going to drive into Fresno. I live in a little town outside of Fresno called Carruthers. But so Fresno's like 15 miles from me, or 15 minutes. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to go into town and do my normal thing. As I was going, I get to this intersection. I'm like, man, like there was something I remembered I was going to do. Anyways, it came back to me, right? This yard sale. So I was like, oh yeah, that yard sale. I think it's over this way. Like I didn't really know exactly where it was, but I just remember kind of the oh, you know what? Actually, I think I drove over to the sign. I decided to go back to the sign, saw the address. I was like, okay, I know where that's at. So I drove to this address. And right when I walked up, I could tell it was going to be kind of like my vibe, a yard sale. And it's not really a racial thing, but it's like, common interest thing. So when I see guys kind of like my age and, white guys, they typically have a lot of the crap that I like, right? I mean, because we probably had similar interests. And I'm in an area where it's a lot of Hispanics. And a lot of times when I go to their yard sales, it's a lot of clothes. So it perks me up when I see a particular person, right? Not, So when I seen him, like I felt good about him.
You can relate to, right? That way you're
correct. It's not like I said. I really don't want this to be about race. It's more about right. It's more about experience. You know what I mean? Like there's this certain kind of people that
grew up in the same area as you. They're most likely to have the same influence.
Have similar interests in me. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. So I see this guy, and I'm like, oh, that guy. This guy looks like he might. I don't know what. I knew he was gonna have something I wanted. So I make a beeline. I'm walking towards it, and he comes out and greets me, and I see like he just has like all these tables set up everywhere, and it's very well organized as well. But there's all kinds of like, I'm seeing old radios, I'm seeing just all kinds of stuff. I see a box that have a bunch of toys in it, and I just noticed right off the bat, I was like, man, that's toys from like the 80s. And I just happened to say, he's like, oh, are you looking for anything in particular? I'm like, oh yeah, video games. He goes, oh, there's a box. You're right. He's like, there's a box right there. I mean, there wasn't anything there. Like if I had more money, I would have probably took almost everything he had. But so he points to the table and goes, yeah, there's a box right there. So I go over to it, and this box was loaded. It was probably my best. Yeah, well, not the best, but definitely felt at the time it was my best pickup at a yard sale. And for no other reason emotionally, because it had so many different things in it that I wanted. It had original Game Boy games in the box. It had two Nintendos in it. It had 2 Game Boys in it, like all original stuff, right? And it was loaded with. We had 30 NES games, and so I just kind of started peeling back, and I was seeing like a lot of black box titles, like just random ones, like Ice Climbers and stuff like that, right? And as I'm digging down, I pick one up and I turn it over, and it's Chippendales 2, Rescue Rangers 2. And so I just put it right back down and piled everything back on top. I didn't have to dig no more. And so I kind of noticed a few other things on the table. So I kind of just like loaded it on the box. I figured, well, I might as well just, if I'm going to ask for a bundle, I might as well just bundle. So I bundled it up, and I go over to him, and I'm like, how much you want for this box? And he goes, the whole box? And I was like, yeah, like everything in the box. He didn't even, oops. Oh, okay. Good. And he didn't, I thought my mic was blinking. He didn't even like look through it. He just like, we'll make an offer. And, I wasn't trying to lowball him, but I just, like, it's just a starting number. And I was like, well, how about $20? He's like, well, I was thinking 50. And I was like, well, I have 27 in my pocket. And he goes, well, give me 27 then. And I was like, all right. So, and then once I broke down per item, it was like everything came out to like about $1 a piece, or well, actually it was a little less. It was like 95 cents a piece. So essentially I paid 95 cents for Rescue Rangers 2. And that was, and I loved, and I'll even further a little bit. So I go back the next day, right? Because I knew there was a few items I left behind, not necessarily game wise, but just some other stuff. And he tells me, he goes, hey, you forgot your boxes. And I was like, my boxes? What are you talking about? He goes, yeah, the boxes, they were right there. If they were a snake, they would have bit you. So, I was assuming he meant on the ground. So I look underneath the table, and there was the Game Boy boxes, the console boxes. There was 2 of them. So they were like these girls, right? Because I went to school with like their uncle or whatever. Or I guess I'm assuming it was their uncle I went to school with, or their dad, one or the other. But they must have bought them everything in 2s. Because they were kind of I don't want to say they were rich, but they were upper middle class. Their grandfather owned the Chevron in town. They were a pretty well-known family out here. So that's why everything was 2s. They got 2 Nintendos and 2 Game Boys. And they didn't necessarily get doubles of the carts, but that's why there were so many carts there. Because really 30 games is kind of a lot for a kid. You know what I mean? Like as an adult, I'd be depressed if all I had was 30. Like for a kid, that was kind of a lot. So anyway, so that was my number 3 favorite pickup was the Chippendale cart. So what is your number 2 pickup?
All right. So my number 2 is so I was, as I typically do, checking Kijiji ads. I don't know if I've explained this before or not, but I have an app on my phone that's basically just a newsreader that I have show me all the ads that are posted on Kijiji, which is like Craigslist, under video games. And someone had posted an X Arcade joystick, which is like a really well built 2-player. They come in 1 player, but this is a 2-player arcade joystick that has adapters you can hook up to all different systems. A lot of people use it for MAME on PC for arcade emulation, which it comes out of the box working with, or you can buy adapters for all different consoles. Well, this was just the arcade system or controller with the USB for using it with a PC. And it was, the guy was asking, I'm pretty sure he was asking 50 at the time. And I just jumped on it and messaged him and said, I'll take it. And I went to his house, which I got there. It was a little bit rough. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be shitty. But I got there and he's like, no, I'm just moving out. Don't need it anymore. I bought it to build an arcade machine. Never did. Here you go. And there it is in like perfectly brand new condition. Been used like twice ever, maybe. And that at the time was worth over 200. Right now, I just looked it up. If I was to buy one right now, it'd be 175 Canadian plus shipping from the US. And being this 2-player arcade stick, shipping's not cheap. It's probably another $80.
Oh, for sure.
So, there you go. Paid $50 for that.
Yeah, and then obviously it's something that brings you a lot of joy, right? You use it a lot.
Play with my son. He just loves playing games with me, and that makes it fun because we can play arcade games on the Xbox emulated. And he really loves Rampage. I started him playing that about a year ago, and he is obsessed with Rampage, even though I didn't tell him he could eat the people for the first year now. But he knows.
Why didn't you tell him he could eat the people?
Because I don't want him being
too violent.
Yeah.
You thought it was too violent?
Didn't tell him in Rampage we're the bad guys either, right? Like we're the bad guys in the military is trying to stop us.
Yeah, that's true. Has he watched the movie?
No, hell no.
No, is that too? How old's your son? 5?
Yeah. I'm sure he won't see the movie until he's like 12, if it even matters then.
Man, I was exposed to some things, man.
My wife always talks about how they were like 3 years old watching Chucky. Like,
yeah, I'll save this story for a Halloween episode or something. But yeah, I got some stories about seeing some bad movies when I was a kid.
Right. Too much. Yeah. So that last one, last one was your number 3 for collection.
Yes.
Oh, you're going backwards order.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1.
I didn't put them in order, but that's fine. Go ahead.
Well, you saved the best for last. You don't know how these lists work?
I
did watch these on
remember.
YouTube, right?
I've watched some, but I don't watch a lot of them.
Okay, so from this point forward, I mean, you can finish this first list, but the next list, start with your third and work your way to the climax here, buddy.
I'll rearrange one. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sure it's going to be really complicated. All right, so my number 2 pickup, it was a recent pickup. So I've gone over the story in a couple of podcasts ago, but it was that prototype Atari game I found, and what made it more exciting, I mean, it was exciting just to find the prototype, but it was just the fact that I just really had this feeling I was going to find one. I don't know why, but I have like I don't want to get all like Sixth Sense type of thing, but sometimes I'll just have these vibes, right? Like I just know certain parts of towns are going to be good. Like the day I was looking on the thing and I was talking to Duke on the phone, and when our friend Duke, and I'm looking through the app, and this yard sale was on
Duke Street.
So I go to Duke Street and she has like a Super Nintendo and some games, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know what it is, man, but it's the gambler instinct, and I never question it. Because the second you question it, you lose it. So I roll with it, okay? This has worked for me forever. Even when I was a kid, man, I would have like this impulse to go buy Dr. Pepper's used to have these caps, right? And they still have caps, but when you take them off, you would win an automatic, it would be like an automatic winner. So you would get a free Dr. Pepper. And man,
I remember those Pepsi.
I used to win every time. I mean, every time I bought one, I would have this weird instinct. I was like, okay, I need to go buy one, and I'll buy one. And it's like, bam, winner. And I've had it when I was playing poker. I was certain poker tournaments I knew I was going to do. Anyways,
how's that work out with the lottery?
Well, lottery scratcher is good. I don't buy a lot of scratchers, but I'll have an itching to play, and I'll go buy one. I'll win about $100, usually almost every time. I'll never lose. I'll never necessarily win the same amount every time, but I don't buy a lot either. As far as like Mega Millions or nothing like that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
Right. No, but I mean,
you're still working, so obviously it didn't work yet.
Right. I haven't won the big jackpot yet, but I don't play enough. So anyway, and I haven't ever had that vibe either. Like that day I start having that vibe, believe me, I'll be down there buying them. So I had this vibe that this store was going to have something. I don't know what I knew I wanted to go to their Atari game. So I made this extra drive out of the way to go to this particular store. When I went there, I'm digging through and I found this prototype, and I really don't even know a lot about it yet. I mean, I pieced together some of it. I mean, I realized like, the fact that the guy, the programmer who worked on it was also the same programmer that worked on Pac-Man, so that kind of really explains why it was on a Pac-Man cart. He just repurposed a Pac-Man cart. And some people questioned why it didn't have the loaner cart. Well, I think it's kind of obvious. It never left Atari. You know what I mean? It was this particular programmer was working on it. So I have found out that I actually reached out to him on Facebook and he didn't reply. But I'm gonna reach out. Believe me, I'm gonna track this dude down at a convention or something. Because he still goes to him. Like now you want me to Facebook.
Now I want to take it on as a mission. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Todd Fry.
So I was gonna figure it out next.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his name is Todd Fry. At least that's what I remember. I'm pretty sure. I still have him in the messenger. I sent him a message through the Facebook Messenger, and he never even looked at it. I was like, he probably has it set where it doesn't go to you unless. And then, but I also went to his Facebook page. Yeah, it's Todd Fry, but with one D, so it's TOD Fry.
Yep, Fry with an E. Yeah.
Yeah, with an E at the end. Anyway, so
yeah, we'll get off that for now.
Right. So Todd Fry, if you're listening, or if any of you know Todd Fry, tell him to get in contact with me. I want to talk about this cart, man. All right. So what is your number 2? We're on your number 2, right? Yes.
We're on my last one.
On your last one. All right. Yeah. Well,
I would have probably. I don't know if I would have reversed these or not, but probably. I would have probably reversed these anyway.
What is your fake grand finale?
Yeah. So as usual, I was looking at Kijiji several years ago. I should actually figure out how long ago that was, but someone had posted a Retron 5, and this was I don't have the date, which means it was probably back in 2015, 2016. Someone posted a Retron 5, and I think they were asking. Here they're asking 100 or asking 90. I think they were asking 90, and it was a good price for a basically brand new Retron 5. So I went and picked that up, and he just barely used it and was selling it. I think he had not won it. He got it with store credit. I think he said he was a reseller too. He said he picked up games a lot. I think he bought it with store credit. That's what it was. So anyway, at the time it was selling in stores for $190 new, and I was getting basically a new one for 90. So, and again, that was all money that I'd already made from selling stuff, so it didn't matter to me. And the Retron 5, for anyone who doesn't know, is basically an emulation console that takes real carts, but it can play NES, SNES, Famicom, Super Famicom, Genesis, Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, but in reality, it's not really using the cards. It's not reading off the cards.
Dumping it's just the ROM from the cart.
Right.
No, but it is reading. Yeah, it is. Yeah, dumping the ROM.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have all the ROM stored.
Okay, so then that's a little better than a basic emulation, because an emulation, because I'm glad to hear that, because that sounds less. It's emulating, but it would be worse if all it was doing was using your cart as some sort of copyright. Yeah, because that's the vibe I got from it, that it was just using it to verify that you did own the cart, and then it was letting you use
technically just let you use an SD card to load all the ROMs, and there are hacks for it to let you do that, but I haven't done them. But
have you ever had any problems with it?
No, everybody who got them earlier, I think I had heard, had really stiff pins where you put it in. It's really, really stiff. I mean, the first two or three times I put it in, it was a little stiff, but it wasn't like damaging the cart stiff like some people had said.
Yeah, John, NES Payne, he broke one because it was so damn stiff.
Yeah, it sounds like the earlier adopters kind of got screwed on those.
Yeah, I don't know if they refunded him anything or like that. I'm sure if you were Metal Jesus or somebody like that, they probably would have sent you out another free one.
He got something out of the deal.
I don't remember. I think he ended up just buying another one. But that kind of turned me off. Initially, I thought it was going to be just like real hardware, just reading it. I didn't think there was going to be emulation involved. But
it's just so hard to do the real hardware. The price would have been like 3 times as much.
Well, right. You can see it with the analog consoles, right?
Yeah. Imagine if the analog consoles, imagine if they made one that did NES, SNES, Famicom, Super
Famicom, $1,000 or something.
Game Boy Advance. Yeah.
Well, I think it'd probably be more than that, because aren't they? They're close to $200 a piece.
Yeah.
Those analog consoles, I think so. And then they got those special editions that are made out of platinum. Or I don't know. There was some ridiculous one. I'm like, who wants this shit? You know what I mean?
The other thing that's cool about the Retron is actually its ability to download your save games off the cart too.
So correct, and also it has a cheat menu too, right?
Yeah, it does have a cheat menu. You can also add more cheats. You can also add language packs as well for games that need to be translated.
That's cool. So the Famicom, like a Famicom RPG, it'd be helpful for something like that.
The cool thing I had used the save game thing for was actually replacing my Game Boy game batteries. Pop it in the Retron, save the game to the memory of the Retron, then replace the battery of the Game Boy game, pop it back in, and save the saved memory.
And it uploads it back to the game.
Yeah.
Oh, now see, that's that's pretty cool. So it's basically like a ROM dump. Then you can dump it out and recover it. That's actually very cool.
Yeah, neat feature.
It is. I'm gonna throw a curveball here. I'm gonna throw in one honorable mention that came to mind before I do my top spot. When I was in Las Vegas, probably might have been 4 years ago at this point. There's this particular record store I always go to, but they have a small video game section. It used to be a little cooler. Now they're a little more hip to what they got. But at the time, sometimes they would be right on top of it, and other times they weren't. They didn't take boxes into the equation. Like, they just pretty much put it at the cart price. So when I walked in, I saw a box copy of Scoon. It's one of those really sneaky rare games. The cartridge itself at the time was probably about a $60 cart, and the manual was probably a $100 manual, maybe a little bit more. But the box itself was almost like one of those name your price kind of situations. Because it was so rare, it didn't really pop up on eBay that much. And I ended up selling it. Well, I actually sold it to my friend Rip. We did a big trade. He traded me a bunch of games and also sent me cash. And he was bidding against himself. He just kept coming. Like, I wasn't ready to do a deal yet, but he was just like, "Oh, what if I did this? And what if I did that?" And I was like, "All right, well, I only paid $30, I guess so." So I ended up coming out pretty high. But I'm sure he's because he's sold his old collection, so I'm sure he did fine on the box. But anyway, that box was at least at the time probably about a $250 to $300 box. Because that's about, I got $300 value out of it. So I'm assuming he probably got it a little under than his value, but it was really clean. I kept the manual. I sold the cart. So it was a really good score for $30, and it was just sitting there for anybody to buy. So that's my honorable mention. And my number one is, I'm sure I have probably told this story at least a million times.
Oh yeah, this is your number one of things in your collection.
This is my number one collection bought out in the wild. Would be my Sharp NES TV. Try to give you just a Cliff Note version. Essentially, I go to this yard sale. This guy just had Xbox games or 360 Xbox games. Just like I do at any yard sale, I asked him if they have any older games. He just mentioned, he's just like, "You mean like old Nintendo?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like old Nintendo." And he's like, "I have a Nintendo that's in a TV." And so I kind of played dumb a little bit, because I was just like, "Oh yeah, really? What brand is it?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't know." And I don't know, he hemmed and hawed a little bit. Initially, he didn't even want me to look at it, and I chat him up a little bit. Next thing you know, I'm in his house, taking the TV out, putting it on his porch. His dad's grabbing an extension cord and plugging it in. And I realized this was going to happen. You know what I mean? It was just like, okay, this is happening. I made him an offer. I was actually going to start higher, but my co-pilot talked me into, she's like, "You should actually hit him lower." I'm like, "All right." So I offered him $50, and he couldn't have said yes faster than he did. And I kind of felt a little bad about it. I was a little overwhelmed with the situation. That's really all I had in my pocket. I was prepared to go to the ATM, but it happened so quick. Next thing I know, I'm loading it in the car, and I hear, as I'm loading it, I hear him yelling to me, and I'm like, "Get in the car. Let's go." Because I already paid him. And I'm thinking he's going to say, "You know what? I've changed my mind," right? And he goes, "You might as well take the games too." And he comes and hands me a bag of games. And so I left my number. I'm like, "Listen, man," because he thought he might have the remote to it, the television remote. Because this one also came with one of the Sharp controllers. It has all 4 legs. It is missing both doors. That is very common, though. The legs normally are broken off. These were intact, which was nice. It's very nice to have that. So I told him, I said, I was trying to make it up to him on the back end. I'm like, "Look, dude, if you find this remote, I will hook you up fat." Trying to put like the carrot out in front of him. You know what I mean? Like, I was actually going to overpay for the remote just to kind of even out the deal. And he never called. I called his mom a couple of times because she had gave me, because they were in America. One of our President Obama had this program where he was giving out cell phone. Well, not him, but the federal government was issuing, and it's still a program, issuing cell phones to you know, like the unfortunate, the people who under income, you know, people typically on Social Security, fixed incomes, you can get a free cell phone with free cell phone service. So they're referred to as Obama phones. And she happened to being an Obama phone dealer. I actually got her business card because she made sure I didn't leave without one. And so I called him a couple times and he couldn't find it. And I was just like, well, keep trying, Jason. Keep looking. I drive by his house all the time when I'm out there in that area. I'm just like, man, if I catch him, I'll probably throw him a $20 bill or something just to keep that carrot out in front of him. But yeah, and in that bag was actually an Ogre Battle 64, which is probably about a $50 to $75 card. And about 3 or 4 other NES games that are about $30 a piece. So essentially, he gave me about $140 of games.
And a $1,000 TV.
Yeah, for $50. But you know what? The one thing I don't really feel too bad is his house was in shambles. This TV was it had stuff piled on it. It had enough thick like soot, like if you've ever seen dust on glass for a very long time, it becomes sticky. You know what I mean? It goes from being dust to it becomes like it's a sticky substance, right? The whole screen was full of that. So it had been been sitting in this pile of clothes and debris for a very long time at this point. The one thing that did make me a little sad was he did tell me that when he was a child, he cut lawns to buy that TV, and his story checks out because there was a rental store in the States called Rent-A-Center, right? You could go and you can, like, let's say you couldn't afford to buy a TV, you could rent it for like $5 a month.
Okay.
But you can also rent to own, whereas you're renting it, and as long as you keep making your payments, and eventually the TV will be yours, and you won't have to continue to pay the payments on it. But of course, you're going to pay a markup. I mean, if it's like a $200 TV, you're probably going to pay $400 for it. But it's your basic credit system. And he did it, and he told me, he's like, he said, I think I paid $1,000 for it. Now you got to keep in mind, like, we're talking like 1989 money. It was a lot of money, but I did some research, and that's about what it would have went for. So this poor little kid out there just sweating his ass off, mowing lawns. How much he must have loved it all those years, and now it's in my collection. So, all right. So now
you wouldn't have let it go if you didn't want to. All right.
That's true.
I'm gonna go grab water. You explain the next section.
Okay. So go grab some water. Our next section, and I'll start off with my first one. Our next section is we're going to go over our top 3 things that we kind of look out for when we go to yard sales. And like I explained before, we're going to try to be a little more specific about this. Obviously, we're looking for big lots of games and bricks of gold and everything. Obviously, we're looking for stuff like that. But these are for me anyways. I don't know what his list looks like, but for me, these are like my mainstays. These are things that I pick up every single time I see the price is right. So my number 3, going from least to bust, is garage door openers, specifically the remotes, not the contraption that actually opens the garage, but the little remote. It's a Sears brand. That one is it sells as quick as I listed. I typically list them anywhere from like $22, $23 to $30. It depends on the models. I have sold some for $50. I found one in package I sold for $78. And I always get them for $3 or $4 or less. Typically, I mean, I've paid as little as a quarter. I've had people just give them to me. So I will pick them up every single time I come across them. My only caveat to that is whenever you list them, make sure you do your research. Make sure you put the correct, it'll have an ID number on the back. Make sure you are very clear on that in your description and do the comparables to what it's compatible with, because typically they'll work more than one opener. But make sure that's listed to kind of cover yourself. I've only had one return on them, and I've probably sold at least 50 of them. So the success rate are pretty high. And I have no ability to test them, obviously, because I don't have the actual garage door opener. Some of them have lights, so when you push it, you can actually see a light happening. Some of them will have like the RF thing, and there's a way that you can shine a laser on it or something when you click it.
Infrared, you mean?
Yeah.
Like a TV remote. You said
correct.
Yeah, okay.
I mean infrared.
Because with that, you should be able to put up to your phone, as long as your phone camera isn't filtering out infrared. Yeah.
Correct. So there's ways to test that to at least see that it's functioning. It's real simple stuff. You can Google it. It's really easy to test them without the actual garage door opener itself. But some of them will be as convenient as they'll have like a little light on them. So when you push the button, a little light. And not all Craftsmen have that, but there's secondary ones. There's actually one I have listed right now. It's sorry, I have it already.
I actually need one of those garage door openers, or that I just get a new opener.
Yeah, I have a LiftMaster. That's another real common one. Also, Genie is another common one. And they all sell really good. The LiftMaster is probably on the lower end of them, but the Genie and the Craftsman are really easy sellers. So every time I see them, if they're $5 or less, I'll pick them up. If they're 10, you're not going to make a big profit off of it. But if you're bundling, it might end up working out on the bundle anyways. But don't leave them behind. If you come across them, pick them up.
Good.
What's your number 3?
All right. Mine are all, well, this one's kind of just recent, but I've had good success with it recently, which is Apple laptop chargers. So my mother-in-law had found one, and I sold it for, I think it was $80. It was for like a pretty new laptop that used the USB-C or Thunderbolt 3 as the charger. Yep. So completely free, and I sold it for I think $80. Then she found another one that was MagSafe 2. I think I sold that for $40 or $50. And then I found one at a thrift store for like $2.99, $3.99, I think, and I sold that for $50 or $60. And that was also MagSafe 2, but that was specifically for the Air. The MacBook Air, because it was a low amperage or low wattage. And then she also found a Apple EarPods or AirPods charger, just a little case that they go in that charges them. I sold that for $80.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and then they're all pretty much all branded with the little Apple logo.
Yeah.
On them, so
they're all brand real. Yep, they all have model numbers on them, or
even the older. Now they don't go for as much, but even the older Apple chargers, I've noticed a lot of them are in the 15 to 20 range. Yeah. And if you're picking them up for $0.25, $2, $3, it's still worth, especially if you're buying in bulk like that. You know what I mean? You can get an. I mean, they're good. I mean, it's
the old one to the thrift store, but it was a little rough condition and dirty, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't have any way to test it either.
Correct. Right. True. A lot of them. I mean, I've had really successful. I've had a high success rate with chargers. I mean, a lot of it's unless they get wet. I mean, anything's possible. They could not work, but I think you got a good success rate. Also, if they're cheaper ones, another thing to think about is I would roll the dice on something that, like, a lot of people don't like to sell small items. This can go into the tip section as well, but something that you're only making $10, $11 on. I also say that's a low risk, because let's say they get it and it doesn't work, just refund the money and eat the shipping. Just move on with your life, because your success rate's going to be better in the long run. Just say, you know what, just keep it, throw it away. I'll refund you the money and just move on. And basically you're going to be out on shipping and initial costs. Your cost is probably going to be a couple dollars anyways. So you might be out $5. I think in the long run, it's going to be a winning proposition on that. So I don't usually worry about stuff like that. The small ones, I'll just refund them. If I usually don't have those problems, but when I do, that's usually my solution to it. If it's cheap, I'm just gonna refund them and just move on. I'll take the $5 loss and get over it. But that's a good one. Those Apple products, man. I mean, most people are pretty wise to them. The flip side of that, the flip side of that is people. There's vintage Apple that's worth a lot, and there's current Apple that's worth a lot, and then there's that crappy Apple right in the middle that they think is worth a lot. And I laugh because I'll come across people who have like like early 2000 MacBook Pros, and they're like,
I paid $2,000 for it. I still want 1,000.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, you'll be lucky to get
15 years old.
Yeah, you're gonna be lucky to get $20 for that thing. If you hold on to it for another 10 years, you might get a couple of hundred, but right now you're not gonna get anything. So keep that in mind, definitely. And a lot of what I do like about Apple products is they're all branded. They all have little ID numbers. I mean, sometimes like with iPods, they get rubbed off on the back, but for the most part, they're on there pretty well. And so you're able to look them up to know the exact model, and you'll know exactly what it goes to, even their chargers. So I do like that.
And the like how to use it or how to wipe it or how to like reset it, all that stuff is well documented for anything like that because of the popularity and really the simplicity of the usability too. Because they do make them easy to use. Because my sister-in-law or my sister needed a phone for her daughter, so we went trying to find one because she lives in a rural area with not many options. She would have ended up paying way more. So when she was visiting me here for her kids to come play VR, we went on Kijiji and started looking for options and found one that was a really good deal. And I looked up how to make sure it wasn't cloud locked. When we got there, the girl had already wiped it and removed it from her cloud account. So I just started setting up and everything was good. So
yeah, that is the one thing with phones. You do have to worry about them being locked out of the cloud. A lot of times what I'll do is when I list phones, I'll list them as is for parts, so I won't have any issues. And granted, you're not going to get max dollar for that, but if you don't know that it won't connect to the cloud and you don't want to risk it and your investment is low, you list it as parts and they will never win a return on you if you can talk. You know what I mean? 'Cause all you have to do is call the operator and let them know that you list it as is for parts or repair only. And if you don't even want to leave out the repair, if you want to leave it, but if you list it for parts only, then you don't have to worry about it because the screen is a part, the back is a part.
The button itself is a part. Part. We talked about that in the previous one before,
right? And the bottom line is they cannot prove that like internal parts. As soon as they open that up, because I'll real quick, one guy tried to say I tested every part, and I'm like, really? How'd you do that? And he's like, well, I opened up the phone and I tested every part, and there's not one working part in it. And I never talked to that person again. And I called eBay, and I was like, look, this guy altered the item. He opened it up. And I knew it worked because I turned it on myself. So right there, it proves that there was some working part. There was a light inside of that worked. So he knew what he was buying. He just was mad that it was locked out of the cloud. And I don't like, dude.
He was trying to get lucky. Yeah, he was trying to buy something cheap that wasn't guaranteed to be locked out or to be unlocked. Yeah. Anyway,
he was trying to get a $90 item for $30, and he lost on that one. All right.
He probably did other people too.
Oh, of course he did. I looked at he would get them and resell them. I looked through his store. That's another tip. Whenever you're dealing with somebody, take a look through their store, see what they're selling. You'll understand their angle really quickly, especially people who buy Pokemon games. Go right through there. They buy them, they try to get them cheap, they change the batteries, sometimes they'll change the labels, and they'll resell them.
I think I told you about one guy who had bought from me PSVR job simulator game, where he was making offers, and I'm like, dude, you got like 100 games for sale in your store. You can afford to pay more.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, if you got the time, go through their thing. You'll see what their angle is. I mean, sometimes you'll go through and you'll see they're not a seller. Well, then you know they're a buyer. So my number 2, and now this one's a little more, I'll spend a little more on it, and you definitely have to pay a little more attention because there is a lot of nuances with this one, but vintage Canon cameras, and specifically ones that come with lenses. Sometimes the lenses, like I'm going to go a little more into the lenses later, but you could really score big on lenses, but there are a lot of common lenses that aren't really worth much, $20 to $50, which a lot of times will be a lot more than you end up paying for it. One of my better scores is I bought a bag of Canon cameras with a bunch of lenses for $20, and I probably made close to $650 on it. So, I always like them. There's it's that 70s, early 80s camera. A lot of times just the backs alone will go for about $100. There are a lot of competition on there, so it's not like you're going to be the only one out there, but they typically are. I've never had one that didn't sell, so I like to look out for vintage camera. I try to stick to the ones with film, though. I usually don't go into the digital ones unless, I mean, obviously if I look it up, but my success rate with looking them up, finding ones that are worth much, is very low. And I'm not talking like a Canon camera that you would buy today at the store. I'm talking like early digital Canon, like early 90s or mid 90s. I haven't seen a lot of resale in those, but resale value. But in those 80s and 70s cameras, man, I've done a lot of good business on those. So keep your eye out with the 35 millimeter film Canon cameras. All right, so what's your number one? Or do you have an honorable mention?
Something I had. No, I got number one, but something I wanted to mention to you was just the one guy that I had gotten that manual was not English on that Ghostbusters game. I actually had checked his feedback to see. I had noticed when he sent the message that he had 939 feedback. I'm like, what the hell? Checked. He's not sold a single thing. That's all purchases.
That's a crazy seller.
Interesting.
Or buyer.
Yeah. That's the kind of person I want to have as a friend, right?
I mean, there's the
buying from me.
Correct. I mean, the flip side of that is he could be a shop owner who buys.
Agreed. Yeah, I thought about that too. He could sell locally or.
There was one who was kind of, I forget his name now, but there was kind of a famous buyer who Sosa Sosa. Sosa. He sold a lot Sosa, like I'm sure he named it after a baseball player, Sammy Sosa. I think I mispronounced it, but it's Sosa.
Yeah, Sosa would be
Sosa games, right? Anytime I would put anything that was even slightly underpriced, like a Mario Kart or something, I mean, it would be sold like because he has like probably like a program that just automatically buys or whatever. He has to.
I've seen those,
it would be within seconds. Like I would literally click it and it would just be sold. And I would be like, I would bet you, if anybody wants to bet, I'll bet you $20 it was Sosa that bought this damn game. It'd be so fast. But I suspected that he was doing a lot of buying he already had sellers lined up.
Yeah, buyers.
Because, yeah, that's what I mean. I'm sorry. Yep. He had buyers already lined up. He would buy it just to resell it quickly, and sometimes he would relist it on his own store. But I rarely noticed it because I would check back just to for the heck of it. And but he did have a huge amount of feedback because he also sells a lot. Anybody who's especially like 2013 to 2016 or something. If you were buying NES games or Super Nintendo games, you probably bought at least one game from him. If you were buying on eBay, but
gotcha.
Yeah. So
okay, my number two is Guitar Hero Rock Band dongles. I'm always watching for them. Just the USB dongles for not Xbox 360, for PS2, PS3, and Wii. Basically, Xbox 360. Usually those are wireless with the console. It connects like a controller does. But these other ones, you need to have this little dongle. People lose dongles. I mean, I watch for any dongles I can find that are to something that's desirable. But the drum ones don't sell nearly as well as the guitars, just because I guess they're not used as much, which makes sense.
It's popular, right?
It's bulky, right? Yeah, the Guitar Hero ones, I don't even know how many I've sold now, and I have to always pick them up if they're if I find them for a good price. I remember finding one at a garage sale for 50 cents one time. The girl was high prices on everything. Like she's definitely got a store, and that she's like 50 cents.
Yeah, it's funny when you find those certain ones that slip through the crack. Like even the most experienced reseller, they don't get it. You know what I mean? There's certain things that they don't realize are worth something.
It's not in their wheelhouse, not in their vocabulary kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know how many I've sold, but quite a few. Not as many as Canadian Retro has, but.
Well, I mean, once you mentioned it, I started spotting them, and I've sold a couple, and I mean, they were like $35-$40. So I was like, fuck yeah. I mean,
I've only had one that didn't work, by the way, as well, to test them. I always plug them into a PC. As long as the light flashes, you pretty much be sure that they're working. I have one where I plug it in and the light doesn't flash. And when I shake that one, there's something jiggling around inside. I opened it up and found out there's one component on the board that had fallen off. I tried to repair it, but there's just not enough material there to repair it.
Just chalk it up as a loss. I mean, it's just
worst case. I can closing for another one sometime. Like I can use the outside of the cable.
Right, throw it in a box or whatever. Right. I mean, and then another thing is going into my number one. I'll just say what my number one is, and I'll finish the point there. My number one that I look for is micro cassette recorders, specifically Olympics or Sony. But I'll buy any of them if the price is right, because they're always going to be the high end. I've sold them as high as $95. I've sold them as low as $15 plus shipping, but I've never not sold them. They always sell. They don't always work, but I have my range. If I could test them right there, a lot of times I'll already have batteries with them. When I'm on my game, I typically will bring some AA and AAA batteries with me. I'll bring a little micro cassette with me if I know I'm really going to go out hunting. And I'll bring one tape and 4 batteries, 2 AA and 2 AAA. And I'll test it right there on the spot. If it works, I'll buy it. If they say it's $1, I won't even test it. I'll just throw it in my pocket and move on. And I do have a little mini graveyard of these that don't work. And once I get to like about 10, I'll put up a lot for parts only and parts of repair only. And I'll sell them for like $30 and I'll still make money off of it. It won't be as much, but it will definitely be a profit from what I spent.
At least you're not losing money.
Oh, I won't. No, you won't lose money on these. I promise you that, as long as you don't overdo it. Like, don't go over $5 for them unless you know it works. And I would only go over $5 if it's something that's 30 and up. Just because.
I've never even seen one in a thrift store.
They are very.
I gotta watch garage sales now.
They are very popular at garage sales and swap meets. I very rarely do I see them at thrift stores, but I every time I go out hunting, I'll come across at least one. And there's also digital ones that sell well too. I would definitely stick with the Olympus on the digital. They're pretty good sellers. Anything Sony is a good sell. Mm-hmm. But these micro cassette recorders, like I said, my theory is they must be for students or lawyers,
like legal stuff,
type of thing. Yeah, because they it must be something that they need to have a hard copy for it. Like I would assume that the student angle was probably like maybe they have a no cell phone policy in the classroom.
Are allowed, yeah.
Right, so they can only use micro cassette recorders. It has to be something to do with that because they're too popular. It's not niche. It is something that they never not sell. Never. I've never had one that I've listed, tested, and it's not sold. They always sell, and they always sell for a good range. Always from $20 to $30. If it's a Sony, you're guaranteed $25. Now, I don't know how they work in the Canadian market. I'm only speaking for the U.S. market.
Yeah.
But these things sell. I love them. I always look for them. I never have to ask for them. They're always right there. Nobody thinks they're worth shit. I would imagine a lot of people get them from storage lockers because at the yards at swap meets, I'm assuming this must be a popular storage locker thing because I typically see them with people who have massive random stuff. So keep your eyes open for micro cassette recorders. Also the tapes. The tapes themselves individually don't necessarily sell for a lot, but they add value when you do come across a tape recorder. So if you come across one that comes with 2 or 3 tapes, only add one. If you're selling one of the lower micro cassette recorders, don't add the tape. You know what I mean? Save it for a pricier one. You know what I mean? If you're not going to make a lot off of it and the tape's not going to alter the price much, add extra value to a better one. Plus, it's always good to have a tape just to have it for testing purposes. So that's my number one that I look out for at yard sales and thrifts and swap meets.
See, so in my area, I'm only seeing digital ones. That's all I can freaking find on Kijiji, but the other ones probably sell too quick. All right, my number one. Oh my God, my number one for things to look out for when hunting is honestly looking for a lot of games and then picking out what I want. Picking out the good games from it, like PS3 and Xbox 360. I'm finding most people are not really valuing them that much anymore. you get the odd person, it's like $20 a game, and you're like, no. But a lot of people will be like $5 or $1 a game. Let's say $1 a game would be great, but then I look at, let's say, a stack of 50 games, and I pick out 1 or 2 that are actually worth 20, 25, $30 each. I'm have pretty good luck doing that with Kijiji ads lately. Someone will post an ad and say this much each, or they'll say a flat rate for the whole thing, and if the money's there in the good ones, I'm fine with it. I'll take the rest of them to a store and get rid of them, and just sell off the good ones. Okay. So I've been doing that a lot lately. Also watching for games that I want myself for the in that kind of scenario. And there was one game I actually don't even think I've mentioned yet, but there was a guy who I know is a reseller. The guy who had the pictures of his legs in the photos from a while ago.
Right.
So I've bought from him twice now, and the second time I went to buy from him for this thing, I actually said, "Oh, I bought from you before. I bought the PlayStation Move controllers from you." He's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't know what those were worth. I sold those way too cheap." I said, "Yep." I am buying another game off of him, or another thing off of him, which he wants $5 for, and it's worth over 80. So I picked up Prince of Persia: Warrior Within for Xbox, but the Platinum Hits, which is very rare and hard to find. So anyone who's going for a full set with variants will need this. And I got the tip from VG Collectaholic Scott, who's been on the podcast, about the variants, about the Platinum Hits Xboxes games that are worth something, because he's been collecting them. So
right.
He gave me a good idea.
Yeah, because even like greatest hits for PS1, or the Player's Choice for Super Nintendo and N64, stuff like that, even GameCube, they were considered less desirable, so most people didn't want them.
Exactly.
But what you start to realize is then it ends up flipping around, and you got people who only want them because they want to have that set, and then they start to realize that there were some that were very low production. So you found that niche, which is great.
Yeah, so I'm keeping my eye out for those. Every time I come across a pile of original Xbox games, I'm watching for those now. There's about...
Yeah, I realized a few years ago, I don't know, maybe it's probably 4 now, like I didn't really think there was a lot of value. I mean, which is kind of naive, but I just hadn't got hip to it yet because I was mostly always looking for plastic and things that are more in my wheelhouse. But I wasn't that much into original Xbox. And
yeah.
I just started realizing, man, it's a really hot collecting scene, original Xbox.
Yeah, it's like,
I think out of the disc space
a lot of
games,
people...
that might be the up and coming one that's kind of probably pretty hot. Like I would think it's probably hotter than PS2, because when I come across PS2 games, a lot of times I'm disappointed, and when I come across Xbox games, I'm usually always looking at 20 to 30. Now I'm not talking sports titles here. I'm talking about your platformers and RPGs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there are those sneaky rare, and GameCube is usually pretty consistent too when you come across a decent GameCube lot. But don't sleep on those original Xbox, especially when they're, good condition with the manuals and all that. Sometimes, those ones that are just like these weird common games are in that $10 to $15 range, and those things add up, man.
There was also some that Scott even pointed out to me that I had no idea there were Canadian variants for. So he wanted the Canadian variant of ESPN NHL 2K5. I'm like, there's a Canadian? He's like, yeah, there's French on the manual, or on the front. It's like, oh my God. So he bought that.
I think you posted that recently.
And I had it sealed too.
Oh, shit.
I got a stack of sealed.
Did you give him the bro price, or?
Of course, yeah. He said, this is what price charting says. I said, okay, then this is your price, which is lower. So, yeah.
He's happy. That's good.
Yep.
So. All right, next section, we will go our this is how I'm gonna take it. You take it how you want, but for me, it's going to be my 3 best pickups in the wild that has a really good story, also good profit margin. So, you want me to start, or you want to start?
I just did the last one, right?
All right, fair enough. I told the story about the corduroy hats. But to me, it's always going to be one of my favorites because it was one of those situations where the guy thought he was taking me for a ride and he didn't realize that I was driving the car. You know what I mean? It was just, it couldn't have worked any better. I mean, he wanted $4 a hat, and the first one I looked up was worth $35, and I didn't look up another one. I was like, we'll take them all. And he couldn't even count because I just told him I wanted them all. He did the math on 10. Apparently there was 11. But I just threw them in he grabbed the box and piled them all in there. Yeah. And so I put them in the car, and I noticed there was a yard sale. His neighbor was having a yard sale, and I go over there, and I'm looking through, and I can hear that guy's voice because he had a real distinct voice, and I hear him telling his neighbor, I sold all the hats. And his neighbor's like, all of them? And he goes, yeah, can you believe it? And I got $40. I couldn't believe he bought them all. And the guy's like, really? And I'm standing right behind him. And I tell him, like, hey, I just want you to know I'm right behind you. So, don't say nothing that's going to hurt my feelings. And he's like, oh, like, oh, no. Yeah, no. He's all stuttering and stuff. I'm like, nah, dude, I don't care, man. I'm glad you're happy with it because I'm happy with my purchase. And all I can think is like, man, he thought I was the biggest rube around. And I'm like, dude, if you only knew, I'm gonna make $400 profit off of this buy. So, I mean, if you got more, man, I will buy every single vintage NBA corduroy hat you have. I will buy them all. I will come back and buy everything you got. But this also kind of leads into a tip because I've told the story to somebody, and that guy's like, "Yeah, did you go back and rub it in his face?" Don't ever rub it in somebody's face. Let them rub it in your face. He thought I was an idiot. And you know what? I'm not going to correct him. So what? I'm an idiot. I bought your stuff.
It's a weird niche thing, and I'm not surprised you didn't know, right? But
it's not even the point. The point is, I don't care. I got the deal. Why do I want to tell him differently? Because, for one...
Wrote in his face.
Well, for two reasons. For one, just common courtesy. Yeah. He gave me a good deal. Why do I want to make him feel stupid about that? Even if he's trying to make me feel stupid, which he was, and he was telling his neighbor, but he didn't know I was standing there. But even if he told me to my face, oh, you're a sucker buying this, I would have been like, okay, I'm a sucker. Because I'll take it back to playing cards, man. If you're beating somebody at the table and you know they're a bad player, you don't tell them, oh, you suck. You tell them, man, I'm just getting lucky. Because what do you want them to do? Stop playing? I don't know. I might come to this guy's yard sale again.
Yeah,
and
that's
he might
what I
be selling. He might be selling them again, or he might be selling something else. Why do I want to smarten him up? Then he sees me, and I'm that jerk that got over on him, as opposed to I'm the sucker he got over on.
Well, then he knows you're out searching for stuff to resell. So the next thing you pick up, he's gonna be like, "Oh, that micro cassette recorder? Yeah, I want $80 for it then."
Exactly. Why tip him off till it's the whole sheep thing. You can shear a sheep many times. You can only skin them once. I like shearing them. I'll just shear that sheep every time I see him. I'll go home with a big old bag of wool. You know what I mean? So just keep it to yourself. Like, you could tell it to your friends. Laugh at home. You don't have to rub it in the guy's face. Let him be happy.
Hit the podcast. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if he runs into the podcast, well then, guess what, dummy? I got him. But in case he, most likely he won't. So I'm happy with that. So that's my number 3. What's your number 3?
My number 3, I'm sure won't be so long-winded, but I was at a Goodwill in another town visiting family, and I found a Microsoft Xbox 360 wireless adapter for $1, which I knew sold for more than that by far, and I took it home, posted it for, I think I put it up for $20, and a guy offered me 15. He was thrilled to come buy it. He drove 35 minutes to get here because he couldn't find one near him, and any stores that I knew of that had them were selling them for $25 to $30 plus tax. So for $15, he was thrilled, overjoyed to come buy it because he had an old white Xbox that had no wireless. So I then took that $15 and started the Dollar to Baller video that I made a while ago. So that $15 turned into Mario RPG, and yeah, I eventually sold that off, but that's just because I'm never going to play Mario RPG. But
it's an RPG. So.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's that one. $1 fine.
That's a good one. Okay, so this next one, I was at this little block sale, right? And I noticed that there was a guy who was competing with me, and I don't necessarily mean competing with me in every angle, but he was trying to race me to the yard sales. I could tell he was going through it and trying to get to the next one, So I felt like, okay, we're competing here. But I didn't care because I was looking at what he was picking up, and it didn't seem like we were competing for the same product. But who knows? Maybe we just didn't see the same thing. We weren't seeing the stuff we were looking for. Anyway, so me and him met up at this corner yard sale, and I could tell he was trying to power walk to get ahead of me. And so as he's walking up, I'm doing the same thing, and I'm kind of scanning what's out there. And I saw this big pile of DVDs, and I guess he saw the same thing. And that I didn't give a shit, right? So he steps over this item and goes right to the DVDs and tries to like swoop them all up, like he's making his big pile, right? Like to stop me from getting any of them. And that thing he stepped over was this tablet that I saw on the ground, and I didn't know what brand it was. I can't even tell you the brand of it now, but at the time I didn't know what it was. So I pick it up, and the guy, I was like, "How much you want for this?" And he's like, $2. And I looked at it, and I was like, "Man, this kind of quality item. I'll roll the dice on that." So I went ahead and bought it, and that was it. And I saw this guy over there just trying to ink out his $3 profit over this pile of crap he was buying. And so I looked it up, and it was like some graphic tablet that I sold for like $250, So I was just so happy because this guy was so eager to beat, and he was so proud of himself too. You could tell, like he even kind of looked back with kind of like a, well, better luck next time look on his face. I'm like, all right, well. Thank you for stepping over the $200 item to get those $6 worth of DVDs that you're buying. So there you go. What's your number?
All right, my number 2. I was actually garage selling in my own neighborhood. There's a community sale every year. I don't remember if this is a community sale or not. I think it was. We usually miss the community sale in my neighborhood because we're doing a family camping trip the same weekend every time my mom plans. So we were going to this community sale. I wasn't going to stop at this particular garage sale because I had such bad luck this day. I was just like, fuck it, I don't want to go. But my wife's like, just whatever, we're here now. Go. I'm like, yeah, I'll go. I also don't want to miss out because every time I skip a garage sale, I think, what could I have missed? What did I not see, right? What did I not get to see? Yeah, big time with garage sales for me. Same with thrift stores. So I go to the garage sale, I get to the table, I'm like, there's some games here. They're GameCube games. Actually, I should check if I bought anything else from them that day. Let's see here. No, I didn't buy anything else from them that day. Anyway, so I'm just like, I found Pikmin, complete in box. They wanted 50 cents. So I picked it up. Posted it on Kijiji, I think the next day or so. I sold it for $30, which is still a pretty good deal. I wanted it gone quick. And I got, that's 5,900% profit on 50 cents, if my calculation's right, which it should be. And that's my number 2. You're muted.
Okay. Well, I was eating, and I didn't want you to hear that.
Yeah.
I thought I unmuted. My number 1. Okay. I'm on my number 1. That was your number 2.
Yep.
My number 1 was okay. There was in the town I live in, there was a doctor that basically everybody went to. His name was Dr. Littlefield, and not only did he actually literally save my life as a child, he also used to make house calls for my grandmother when she was very ill. So this guy has like a personal connection, like he's somebody that I value as just a person over anything else. Well, anyway, his wife had passed away, and his family was going to move him to Texas. He wasn't there on the site, but they were it was an estate sale. They were selling everything he had.
Yep.
And I got to go through his house, and it was just like it was weird. It was emotional. I didn't think I was going to feel that way, but it was just like, I saw this different side of him that I didn't know, because he was always just like this nice old doctor. But, I realized like me, he had passions. I mean, his wasn't video games, his was photography. Okay. And, he also liked to take pictures of a lot of nature, so, I mean, he just had like thousands of prints. I mean, like, you know, they put them in like these, I don't know if I'm even saying the right word, but they're like these little squares, and the picture is in it. So you put them in slides. He had
Okay,
thousands of slides, and the
so they're
heat
negatives, like film slides, like that kind of thing.
film slides. Thousands. I mean, he had them all categorized. I mean, essentially, he has what I have in video games, but in film slides. And you know, he had pictures that he had took. And I mean, this was his passion.
Self-good, by the way. Anyway,
correct. But I had limited money, so I had to focus. So I decided I'm going to go for the camera equipment, because the way I looked at it is Dr. Littlefield wasn't a cheap man. He had tons of cameras, so obviously this guy was buying whatever the newest and the latest was, and he didn't get rid of anything. He had my first goal was I made a little bundle, and after I talked to the son-in-law, I realized, well, the son-in-law wasn't stupid. Not that I thought he would be, but you know, so he was like, well, let's look at this, and so he kind of came off as like, all right, so this isn't going to be one of those kind of deals, but I decided just to forget the stuff. Let's just talk. So I started talking with him. We found some common ground. We started chatting. He said, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm not going to sell any of this stuff. I'll sell anything else you're looking for. It's like, no. He goes, okay, I won't sell any of this. Come back later tonight after everybody leaves. Come back at 6. I was like, all right. So I came back later. We cracked open some beers. We started chatting. And I started telling him stories about Dr. Littlefield and everything. And so he's like, you know what, man? Go over there. Grab yourself a camera. Grab yourself a lens. Whatever you think you need. Come back and you pay me what you think is fair. I was like, okay. So I saw a Canon camera and I saw a nice lens. I didn't know what it was worth, but I knew it was worth something. I knew it was nice. It was a big telephoto lens. So I thought, you know what, this would be cool to have. And the camera itself, you know, the back already had a little lens on it. So I brought that over to him, and I put it there, and I said, I'd like to buy this. And he goes, well, what do you think is fair? And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to tell you what I think is fair, because I don't know what is fair. But I'll give you everything I got. And I was like, I got $30. I can go get more if you want. I can go to the ATM. I can get out, I don't know, another 30 if that's what it takes. I was like, do you think 60's fair? And he goes, you know what? I think 30's fair. Just give me the 30. And then he told me, go look around, take, you know, like he gave, I don't know, he gave me some mementos from the doctor's office, like his actual office that were his name, a couple other little things. And I thought it was neat.
That's neat.
So, yeah, it was just kind of neat because this was like something that was always on his desk. And I mean, I've seen it like, I don't know, countless times as a child or even as an adult. So later on, I ended up looking up that lens, and apparently I had an eye for lenses, and the lens I ended up selling the lens for $650, and I sold the camera for $110, and I sold the other lens for like $50. So I made a really good sell. I kind of felt a little guilty, but then I also thought, you know what, my family's given this guy thousands of dollars over the years. So I didn't feel that bad. And really, it really wasn't about him making any money. The guy had money. He was just he was downsizing. I mean, he was getting older, and he just downsizing is all it was. And the way I looked at what was going on there, I saw a lot of stuff getting sold, like fire sold for certain things. I'm just like, yeah. So I didn't feel too bad, but anyways, that was my bet, and I ended up taking that money, and I bought myself Flintstones: A Dinosaur Peak, which I still have, and probably my third rare, I don't know, probably fourth rarest NES game, and definitely happy with that purchase. So I immediately sold it to some Japanese fellow in Los Angeles, and he was very happy and gave me very good feedback, and I sent it off immediately. That thing did not last a day. I was so pleased with how fast that sold. Even the other camera, that's really what opened my eyes to camera lenses, which, you know, in retrospect should have been an obvious thing because, you know, they're not cheap. But when you really start to look into the lenses, there is a shitload of lenses that isn't really worth much. So, you know, you really kind of have to do your homework. Also, another thing to kind of look out for with lenses is, you know, condition. I mean, I know that sounds kind of obvious, but man, even a little scratch on a lens could almost make it worthless to certain buyers. So really be careful with that. And if you don't know, you know, make sure it's cheap. Don't go out on a limb, because you know, I had sold a lot to a guy. I mean, a lens with a camera with a lens on it, and he already had bought it, and then he starts peppering me with all these questions. And I'm like, hey man, like, if you're not happy with your purchase, we can go ahead and cancel it right now. You know what I mean? He goes, well, I just really want to know. And I was like, well, as in my ad states, you know, any questions should be prior to purchase. But he ended up being happy with it. But man, he was just like really specific. Like, does it do this when you push this button? Does this thing happen? And all that. I was like, look, man, all I know is, you know, the what the hell's the name of it? I don't know. Well, whenever the shutter, the shutter works when you do it, and all the little buttons work when you push it. And as far as what you're asking me, I don't know. I don't have film. Like, how would I know that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm selling a camera, man. Like, if you don't feel like it's gonna work for you, then don't buy it. I can refund you right now. No harm done. And he's like, no. I want it. I've been burned before. And I was like, look, man, I'll send you a video if you want. Give me your number. But anyways, it worked out great. But so that would be my only word to the wise on that. With the lenses, you definitely want to make sure they're not scratched. You want to make sure they're not foggy. I did get a lens that had just something in it I couldn't get out. I was still able to sell it for a good amount, but it wasn't nowhere near what I could have sold it for. I still made a good profit off of it. But really disclose that, really look through them. You know, with the cameras, I mean, sometimes if there's not a battery in them, like the little, like if the battery's good, when you hold it down, there'll be a little light on the inside of them, certain models. If the battery's not, but the battery shouldn't make a difference. But some people were asking me like, hey, is the battery good? I'm like, dude, it's probably a $15 battery, man. If that's going to affect your sale of the purchase, then don't buy it. Cause you know, it's a 40-year-old camera, dude. Like, no, the battery's not good. I mean, I don't know. So anyways, that was my favorite yard sale / whatever, my best pickup. Or one of them. I don't know. I forgot we even titled that one. But
you said top 3 sales, but
sales, but not definitely was very good for the amount that I paid. Right. I mean, percentage wise, it wasn't no 5,000%. I mean, I've had that.
Yeah, it's easy when you pay 50 cents. Speaking of which, my number one. So this was a weird sale. So I was garage selling in the town beside where I grew up, which is where my sister lives. I think we were actually visiting my sister that day. And my wife and I went garage selling with my son, who was probably like 2 at the time. And there was a sale there at this place where the building is actually a construction company. The guy who owns it, my mom later told me, is a bit of a hoarder. He likes to go to auctions and just buy up all the auctions as they're like, no one's bidding on them. He'll buy it last second and just take all the shit and put it in his construction building. So half of his building for his construction company is the construction company. The other half is storing all his junk. So I guess he had a one-time garage sale of all the stuff that he had in this building, and just let people walk through, pick out what you want, and bring it to him and make an offer. So my wife and I went through, and we ended up getting I sold well over $450 worth of stuff. And it was just a hodgepodge of stuff. Trying to see if I can find it. Yeah, I got it here. What is it? Like 2 pages, 61 things that I put in my list, including like a Mario cake pan made by Wilton, Michelangelo cake pan made by Wilton.
I've sold one of those.
Yeah, we kept it.
Yeah, those are cool.
We've kept both of them, I think, actually.
You kept the Mario? That's
yeah,
cool,
we still got it. I wanted to make a cake with it and make a video out of it, but I haven't.
Well, maybe we'll make a trade one day.
You gotta convince my wife to get rid of it, because she probably never will.
Oh, maybe me and your wife will make a trade one day.
Good luck trying. Right. Good luck trying. There's a bunch of like 20 original Xbox games and what is it? Another 20 PS2 games, a bunch of PS3 games, a whole bunch of random stuff in that lot. And one of the games was oh my God, Twilight Princess for GameCube. Where's my list? God, lost it. Twilight Princess for GameCube, which was complete in box. The disc was a little bit scuffed up, but I was able to just take that to a store and get it buffed. And I ended up paying, once I split everything out, and how much I paid. So we had a big stack of stuff in my arms. My wife had a big stack of stuff in her arms. He said, how much I said, how much? He said, what do you think? I think I had said like $20 or something, which was just way low. He said, how about 50? I said, what about 40? So we settled on 40 for all that stuff. for like $450 is how much I think I sold everything for. I did have it. I actually still have some of the stuff, so I didn't get rid of everything yet.
Normally, I don't like to start with 20 because it's become like the new low ball entry bid, but
it was just
But you can see where starting with a kind of low ballish number got you to a very reasonable number. Now, had you started at 40, he might have said 80.
Exactly. You know what I mean? That's the problem. And he seemed like that type of negotiator. Number one, he doesn't know any of this stuff, right? He doesn't know what it is. He has no idea what it's worth.
So you've actually given him an insight to what you think it's worth. You know what I mean? In a way, because if you would have started really high, he'd have been like, well, oh, shit, what do you got here? Let me look closer.
I listened to him negotiate with a few other people, and it was always...
That's good, too. So he scalped him a little bit.
Yeah, they'd throw out a number, he'd double the number, you know, I mean, that kind of thing. So kind of gave me a starting point. So anyway,
that's actually that should have been your tip, man. When you're in one of those situations,
yeah,
scout. If you see other people, that's actually an excellent tip though for any situation. If you're in a situation where there are other buyers there, if you can eavesdrop a little bit on how they negotiate, it gives you the upper hand because he don't know what you're going to do, but then you'll know what he's going to do, or at least you might.
Yeah, when I'm at garage sales, I always listen to other people negotiating prices while I'm looking around just to see where these people are at and whether they, because you always, sometimes you hope for the person who just says, I don't know, make me an offer, or I'll take whatever you got. Like, it doesn't really matter. People just want shit gone, right? Like CJR kind of said, is people around here just want the stuff gone. So anyway, I always listen to that. But this ended up, when I divided it all out by everything, ended up being 66 cents for the game. So I ended up selling it to a store for $40 store credit. That's actually the same store that I was talking about earlier. So that is 5,960% profit. And that's to a store. If I had sold it privately, it would have been even more, but I just wanted it gone because I had all that stuff to deal with. So the more I can get rid of it, the better. Actually, a lot of that stuff ended up going to that store, especially those random PS2, PS3, and Xbox games. I kept anything that I wanted. I don't think I actually kept that much stuff out of there. Original Splinter Cell for Xbox. I use that to mod Xboxes now, and that came from this store as well, or this whatever warehouse sale.
Well, at that same yard sale that I had got, that I told you I bought a bunch of cameras and lenses for $20. As I was going back to the car to put all that crap in, out of the corner of my eye, I saw what I thought was a Wii Fit balance board. And I looked at it, I just caught it out of the corner of my eye and I thought, oh, he said he didn't have no video games. If that's a Wii, he might have something else. So I went back to it and it turned out to be a scale. And initially I thought it was a Wii balance board with a sprinkler timer sitting on top of it. So I was like, well, there's a sprinkler timer and a Wii balance thing. So when I went over there, it actually was a scale with a LCD, I guess maybe not LCD. Well, let's just call it a digital display, right? Yeah. It probably wasn't LCD, digital display. So I looked at it, and I was like, okay, this is some sort of doctor scale. But how much do you want for this? He goes, just give me $1. So I was like, I'm not even gonna look it up. All right, boom, here's your $1. Because I figured, man, if this ain't no good, I'll just throw it in a garbage can. And it turned out to be exactly what I thought it was, some sort of doctor scale, like a weighing thing. Anyway, so I listed it up for $250 plus shipping, and I sold it pretty much that day. I think it was that day. It might have been the next day, but it was really quickly. And it turned out some college coach, a wrestling coach, he bought it somewhere in Arkansas or something.
Interesting.
So he might have. I don't know if he was famous, but it was the Arkansas wrestling department or whatever. He bought it, so I was like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, nice. I didn't leave no money on the table. I set the market for that. So I don't know if that comes out to 20,000%, but I think I beat you.
All right, where are we? What are we doing here? Discussion topic, collection update, that kind of stuff. I don't know why this is all messed up fitting in here, but. So we got, basically this is where you update whether you're, well, it's me first. I'm going to throw mine out. So my collection is currently up $550 and 86 cents. And I am going to the Barrie Game Exchange this weekend. So let's
maybe you'll be up higher.
See what I want to buy or what I'm going to sell. Because I'm in the mood to buy. I just don't know what the hell I want to buy. I was like, okay, I'm going to spend this money that I've got and,
you have a VR.
Yeah, I
VR?
have 3 VRs.
Do you have a Model 2 for sale?
The second PSVR, you mean?
Well, isn't there 2 PSVRs? There's a Model 1 and a Model 2.
Yeah, there's not much difference. It's basically whether it passes through HDR, which is just high dynamic range colors. But I have the Model 2, which is mine. But I have other types of VR. I have one for the PC, I have the PSVR, and I also have one for my cell phone. And I actually have a second one for the PC to sell parts.
I think I'm gonna I'm looking for one for the PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
I should. Yeah, you know what? You know what was the selling point for me that it got me kind of fired up for it?
Tetris.
No, well that would actually be cool.
That game is good. Tetris Effect is really good in VR.
Yeah, and I probably would dig that, even though I hold the Tetris thought for a second. I was hearing that you could watch 3D movies.
Yeah, I've been watching for 3D Blu-rays to try and do that too.
That's what I want to do, man. Now I'm all, because I passed up on 3D Blu-rays for a while. I mean, I'll pick them up if I know they're worth selling.
3 ways.
All the time. 3D Blu-rays. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So this is your collection update. How's your NES?
Well, you know what? I hadn't bought any manuals this month. I did purchase some Atari games. I haven't got them yet. But the one thing I'm kind of excited about is I got the second to the last name variant for my NES collection. And when I mean name variant, in PAL territories, there were certain games that went by other names, like River City Ransom here was Street Gangs in PAL. Okay. Or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles here was Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles there. Okay,
well, the show was different there.
Well, Ninja was violent, and
yes, it was actually not allowed. Yeah,
it wasn't allowed. Also, every Ninja game got screwed over that way. Shadow the Ninja here is Blue Shadow there. And Ninja Gaiden, which is or Gaiden or Gaiden, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Here was that, and there was Shadow Warriors, and I already had part 1, and I didn't have part 2, and I've missed it out a bunch of times because they're overpricing it. And I caught an auction the other night and ended up picking it up for like $40 Australia, which turns out to be like 35 or something American, whatever it was. And that was shipped. So
cool.
Happy with that. So now the only name variant that I'm aware of, there might be another one that I'm not, but because I wasn't even sure about like track and field here. There's one that was in I got it though, but it was in like in Spain, the Spain PAL territory. It was Barcelona track and field. So I was like, oh, I didn't even know about that one, but I ended up getting So there might be one I'm not aware of, but the one that I do need is Snowboard Challenge, which apparently is pretty hard to find because I can't even find any eBay completed listings on it, at least within the last 6 months. It was heavy shredding, so that's the one I'm kind of looking for. So I want that, and then also Mr. Gimmick was the last exclusive that I need. So I'll be happy with that. So anyway, Shadow Warriors 2, picked it up. Didn't cost me anything because I used flipping money. So
cool.
Freebie. So,
all right.
With that.
So we have no listener questions because I didn't tweet it out. I didn't ask. But if you have any listener questions for next month, tweet #DDAnswers or #Dollar Dorks or message me or Chris directly or
and
put something in the Cartridge Club forums.
If you message me directly, make sure you let me know you want me to say it on air because there was a while there I was just answering them.
Yeah.
I was just like, hey, there's the answer. And I'm like, oh shit, that was supposed to be.
There was a tweet that wasn't directed at us, but it was as a result of something we had said before, I think. So Self-Destructo, who I mentioned earlier, had found out about Canadian flat rate boxes. He also tweeted his eBay sales for the last couple weeks.
I did see that, and he's doing really good.
Pretty good, yeah. I mean, he's got like NCAA Football 14 for $61 Canadian, and then Pro Sport Hockey for NES for $125, and then Outrun Coast to Coast, Outrun 2006 for $130, which I've heard good things about that game in terms of resale anyway. Yeah, pretty good. Some high dollar ones.
That's
I don't
really
think
good.
I knew. Hey, I always like to look for the games that are worth money.
Yeah, because there's a couple sneaky rare sports games. You're like, what? Like that NCAA college basketball for GameCube. What's that?
Most of the time, it's the last one in the series on that system. Like the latest year on that system is the one that holds value.
Or there was some sort of error and they pulled it and re-released it.
Yeah, there's the NC.
Yeah, the NCAA for
GameCube, but that was because they were actually sued by the
players or something.
The players or students who weren't getting any money from it.
Correct. Yeah, so they pulled it. I believe it was the Bannon's boys, maybe for UCLA. I could be wrong with that, but I do remember them. Ed O'Bannon and his brother, they sued NCAA because their likenesses was being used in the games and they weren't getting paid, which is really sketchy, man. Like, someone can make the argument with, well, you shouldn't get paid to play because you're getting the college education. That's fair, but they are making $1 billion off of these athletes. And tend to double down and sell their jerseys with their names on the back and sell their likenesses in video games.
Yeah, that game's still got some good value. That's NCAA College Basketball 2K3 on GameCube, specifically on GameCube.
Yeah,
and that one's
the GameCube one is the one that you want.
It's $145 US. So
even loose is a pretty good payday,
and new is over 300.
Right. Yeah. You know what? I had a friend. Well, Jay. The market dipped on that because he sold. I'm pretty sure, and my numbers could be a little bit off, but I'm pretty sure he sold his. He had it up for $1,000 or best offer for the longest, but I think he ended up taking like $700. It was sealed
for new.
Yeah, but it might have dipped dramatically. This was a few years ago, but I know he had it up forever, and eventually, I remember when he sold it, he was all happy. And he usually doesn't embellish his sales. So, but I do want to give a little shout out to a buddy of mine. We're only on screen names. I mean, I guess he knows my name because apparently he's a listener to the podcast. He had made a comment on one of my posts. He's from San Diego or the San Diego area because he's always showing some of the stores in that area. One being store that Ian works at, Luna Games. His screen name is My Collection of Video Games, and apparently he's been using some of our tips, probably my tips because your tips suck. But he's been using some of our tips, and he's been adding to his collection. So. He bought a Bebop and a Rocksteady recently, the big 13-inch figures, the giant ones. Those things are pretty high dollars. At top end, they're about $100. Even on the low end, I think they're in the high 60s to 70s, like missing shit and dinged up paint. So I'm happy for him, man. They're really cool additions to his collection, and actually looking at them made me want to get one because another buddy of mine, Dano, he has them, and he got lucky and found them at a swap meet for cheap. So they're pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, so keep grinding out there, buddy. I mean, he's killing it, man. This guy, he's at the swap meet every week, and he always gets good trade-in stuff. He does a lot of trading in, but I think he's gravitating towards the more eBay sales, if I read the situation correctly.
Cool. So yeah, I'm looking at his Instagram now.
Yeah, cool dude, man. He's got a really cool. I mean, he's into Doctor Who, which isn't really my thing, but it's neat. He turned his little. I'm assuming his whole game room. He kind of put it into a closet, and it's a pretty decent sized closet. But on the outside, it looks like that telephone box.
The TARDIS.
Yeah, the TARDIS. Yeah, if you scroll down a little ways, I'm sure it shows. Yeah, like about.
He's got one picture here with a Roomba. With the Jetsons NES game on top of it. That's a good idea.
Well, hey man, you got to get creative if you want.
I like it.
But if
it's not the TARDIS because the TARDIS is blue.
Is it?
But it is a UK telephone box though.
Well, cool. That shows you how much I.
As far as I know about it,
I just assumed it was a TARDIS, but you're right. Now that I think about it, you're right. The TARDIS is blue, so.
As far as I know,
it looks cool though. I mean,
it does look cool.
It ain't my thing because I'm not in the UK telephone booth, but he is, and it looks cool, and it's very well organized. So keep doing your thing, man. You're doing good. It looks awesome.
Okay, so next thing is suggested content. I'm gonna throw his link in there too. Anyway, under
He's cool, dude.
And then I'm going to suggest, I don't think I have suggested him before, but Thrift School on YouTube. I almost think I have, but Thrift School is his name. He does, he thrifts, he buys tons of stuff all over the place, and he sells on eBay and Amazon. He's based out of the US. He's got good tips. I actually had a question. Actually, I could have done that as one of our questions, but we had that question from somebody about selling jewel case games, right? Was that Chris? Was that Base Guy? I can't remember. Or was it somebody else? Can't remember who it was.
Sounds right.
Who asked about selling jewel case games, and I had actually found Thrift School had a video about selling audio CDs, which is the same cases. And yeah, it seems like I was being overly paranoid about how to pack them. So I don't see it yet, but I was trying to find out who it was, but I'm wasting time doing such a thing. Yeah, so Thrift School is mine. What's your recommendation? Maybe I'll see if I can keep finding them.
I'm gonna give you two YouTube channels, and I know normally I'm giving recommendation on the NFL and don't big stuff like that.
Something
else.
But
I mean, you really should be watching it. I mean, right now, if you want a good recommendation, the Final Four is coming up in a couple days, man. You want to see Virginia's gonna win? No, all right. Anyways, so this one is it. I'm gonna give it in. This is my number one. I really love this channel a lot, more so than the other one I'm gonna recommend. But it's called Film Cram. Okay, and essentially they take movies and they condense them into like a 20-minute video. So let's say you're gonna look up Avengers Endgame. It'll summarize it. And the guy's, I believe he's got like a British accent to him, which doesn't necessarily matter, but it's pleasing to my ear. And he makes some jokes and stuff, but he's quick, oh, and so did this, and oh, this happened, and this happened. Okay. And of course, you're seeing pictures of it. It's not just him talking. You don't actually ever see him. He's always showing clips of the movies, but with no audio. He's the audio, right? It's probably for copyright reasons, but it's really cool, and they're quick. But the number one thing I want to recommend on that channel, because by the time you hear us again, we will already be at least 2 episodes in, is the new season of Game of Thrones is coming up. And he has all 7 seasons crammed, all 30 minutes or less episodes. And they are very pleasing, very easy watch. And if you want to get caught up on Game of Thrones real quick, just to get a quick refresher without having to watch all 7 seasons like I did recently anyway, if you want to do it, check these out. They're really quick. They're fast watches, man. You can put them on in the background. You don't even actually have to watch it. You can just listen to it. I mean, it's even pleasing just to listen to it in your headphones. But so check out Film Cram. It's really good. Also, the other one is kind of a horror-based channel. And it, from what I understand, it's all original content. It's called Alter. I can hear whichever you're playing.
No, I'm not playing anything. That's my sub pump.
Your pump sucks.
Just vibrates half the house. Anyways,
so this channel is called Alter, and the first episode was a 3-part episode. Essentially, it was kind of like I don't want to say monkey paw. I don't know if you ever seen that, but it wasn't really anyways, just watch it. It's a 3-part episode, the first one. I haven't really watched the other episodes yet because there has been 3 other ones since. I did watch 1 of the 3 and I thought was good. I just didn't think it was as good as the first one, which was a 3-parter. But it's kind of a Twilight Zone-ish with a little more of the horror vibe to it. But the other one I watched had a little bit of comedy to it as well. But ultimately it's a horror channel. But it looks like it's all original content because short films is what they are, 15 minutes or less. So
sounds like a movie, but sounds like a movie, but
well, the one
TV show.
One was movie-ish. I mean, it was, like I said, it was 3 parts, and it would have been a great Twilight Zone episode. It was the very first episode. It was essentially people were going. They were going to this like a gambling. You spun the wheel. Right, and he spun. It was like a roulette wheel essentially, but you could only bet one way or the other. It was either black or red, so you had to lose something or you won something. And it was if you lost, you were gonna lose. You were gonna lose something really bad. So it was good. Check it out. I don't want to ruin it.
kind of related to that, where it sounds like each episode its own little story? Then
yes.
So
they're all,
related to
I guess
that-
you would call it mythology. Whatever.
kind of like Black Mirror is like that as well. But I think
Yes.
Black Mirror is
Yeah.
meh. There's episodes that are good. There's ones that are really bad. But check out Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix. Check it out. It's similar to that, where each one's its own little story, but they're really well done, and they usually focus around love or death or robots or a combination of them. And there's just I binged it the other day. I started watching it like 8 o'clock at night, and then I just watched the entire thing and stayed up till midnight or 1 a.m. I think it was 1 a.m.
What was it called? I was talking when you said
Love, Death, and Robots on Netflix.
Love, Death, and Robots. All right.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
Okay, and the the three-part episode I was talking about was actually called The Outer Darkness. So it's a 3-part episode. There's a bunch of short films on here, but those are the ones I was into, and each episode was about 8 minutes long. The lowest one was 6 minutes and 57, and the highest was 8:18. So about an average of 8 minutes. So about 24 or more. Essentially, it was a 24-minute episode. They chopped it up. They probably don't have enough subs or whatever to have the 15-minute episodes yet or something.
Well, there's also YouTube tries to encourage people to do videos around 10-minute mark too.
Yeah, that's true, because I do see one that's 19 minutes, a little further down. But it doesn't look like the channel's that old. It's only 8 months old.
Okay. I finally found that freaking question. So it was from Self-Destructo as well, about shipping Dreamcast games. And then I forget who had asked after that. It was probably Base Guy, but that was more recent. Yeah, so Self-Destructo's been doing a lot of eBay sales lately, and asking lots of questions, which is good. I really wish I could find who it was that answered more recently, who asked more recently. I gave them the same question. It just bothers me that I can't find things.
You gave them the same question or the same answer?
Same answer. They asked basically the same question. How do you ship jewel cases, or do you just ship jewel cases like that? And I said, actually, we just answered that over here. I don't know where it is.
Well, we can answer it again. Don't ship jewel cases in a bubble mailer unless you want them to send it back.
Well, that's what I thought. But everything I found, which was from other eBay sellers, including eBay's own forums where people are asking the same question, they all did it, but they got the bigger bubble mailers and they wrapped it around twice.
Okay, I mean, it's fair, but if you have access to a small box, I will take a small box over a bubble mailer for a jewel case any day.
But in Canada, that means the price goes from $3 up to $15.
Correct. So now, in Canada, no doubt. In Canada, you're more likely to want to try your option.
Is if you're going to do a jewel case. Now, I don't have a jewel case here for people who are looking, but I do have an Xbox game. If you're going to do a jewel case, what I would do is open it up and put some padding here. Either bubble wrap or hard foam would be even better, I think. Just to stop the heat from getting in.
Well, yeah, if you have an extra DVD, okay, I misunderstood what you said. Yeah, if you have a DVD case or something like that you can cram it in like that, that'd be perfect.
No, that's I mean a jewel case in a bubble mailer, but I don't have a jewel case here to show what I mean. So I was just using a DVD case as an example. Whereas
what you're saying is you're using a bubble mailer and you're wrapping it in bubble and then you're sticking it in a bubble mailer.
I'm saying if I'm going to ship a jewel case, I wish I had one here, but if I'm going to ship a jewel case, I'm going to open it up, and on top of the disc, I'm going to put bubble wrap or hard foam so that the front of the case can't push in and crack.
Okay.
Because I think on a jewel case, you're most likely to get a crack in that front, right?
Well, if you send a jewel case
in a
bubble mailer, I don't care what you stick inside of it. You can stick whatever you want inside of it. If it gets pushed on, this could easily crack. But the thing is, the jewel case itself is very disposable.
Yeah, if it's in a bubble when you get a problem, which you might as well box it then.
If it's a cheaper game, I mean, they're more likely not going to bitch anyways because it's cheap. They're not buying it for the damn.
But you also get the return out of it. But I'm just saying, if you're going to ship a jewel case in a bubble mailer, I would definitely put bubbles or foam in between the disc top and the lid of the case, because that is the most likely place I think it's going to crack. And if you put something in there, you can spread the weight out instead of having it push in and crack.
I see your point. I'm just saying, in the States, I'm not even gonna roll the dice, especially if it's a higher end PS or Dreamcast or PS1 game. I'm just gonna go ahead and bite the bullet and pay the other 75 cents or $1, because most likely I mean, if it's a low end game, I might message the seller, I might message the buyer and say, look, I'll stick it in this, but it might cost, I might have to charge you a little more.
And before you even sell it, it's a jewel case. You're going to be making the listing accordingly.
Correct.
Put the
yes,
price.
you're going to put, yes, I mean, definitely, you know what? And really, it's all about full disclosure. If you put it in your comment section, listen, I'm going to send this off in a bubble mailer. There could be a chance that your jewel case could crack. Do you have an issue with that? Because if you do, we're gonna have to work on something on the shipping price, because it's gonna go from this to this in your Canadian region. In my region, it's probably not worth all that, but in your region, it does seem like it substantially increases. That's a lot. That's a huge increase from a padded mailer to a box.
Yep.
That's so ridiculous, man.
It puts it in a different class of mail. That's why.
You guys really need to do something about that, man.
Yeah.
Come on, like start. I mean, let's say here you might start writing your senator, your congressman. You have an equivalent of that there? Like, I'd be on that, dude.
Member of Parliament, MP.
Well, you need to start messaging that person. So maybe you can get some grassroots effort going on, because you guys get the shaft, dude. I mean, I don't even understand how you guys even have a mailing system there. It's crazy.
I did just I sent a tweet out about that too. We have. Oh, damn it. Now I can't remember what it was. We have like 10% of the population in the same area size as the US. Canada actually has slightly more space than the US does.
Right. But you don't populate as much, right? You have areas that are barren pretty much, don't you?
Well, you guys have Alaska too, but I think Canada has more areas like that.
Correct. Yes. We have Alaska. I mean, I don't know what the population of Alaska is, but I mean, it doesn't, whatever. It's an afterthought for us. We don't care. We pay people to live in Alaska. We do.
Weird. Population of Alaska, 700,000.
That's not terrible, but it's a pretty big state. 700,000. That's really small.
More than Wyoming.
Right. Anyway. Yeah, but Wyoming's.
I don't know. I just see it here.
Yeah, I'm thinking of mass. Alaska's way larger than Wyoming, but then you look at a state like New Hampshire or Vermont. Those are like slivers, man. Like, and I would suspect that their population is on par with Alaska. But we're getting off the rails here.
We're getting way off the rails here.
Right.
Let's get into geography again. We're not good at geography.
Because I'm just guessing right now. So,
all right, we're done. Chris is at CWR2 on Twitter and Instagram. I am Derek of Two Dorks, TWO Dorks on YouTube. I never actually give up my own Twitter. You know that? DEGE13.
Why don't you?
I don't know why. Anyway, and the Cartridge Club is how we met each other and how this whole thing kind of came together. Check out cartridgeclub.org for like-minded content creators, gamers, collectors, nerds, dorks, whatever you want to call people.
And there is a new podcast coming to the Cartridge Club, right? What was it? Their new computer podcast. I was just listening to it earlier today.
Quick Save Club.
Quick Save. There you go. The Quick Save Club. So if you're into PC gaming, check them out. And they have a Cartridge Club for PC gaming now.
Podcast is up everywhere. They have episode 0 out, which is kind of an introduction to them and the concept.
Yeah, Kevin's a top-notch podcaster, man. He knows what he's doing. The guy's he's smooth.
Twitch is good too, and Josh is actually good too. He has his own podcast.
Yep. Well, I mean, I'm just.
I know Kevin's.
I've listened to Kevin's a lot longer, and I mean, the guy's just.
Twitch has a radio voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he does. I mean, I don't always agree with everything he says, but he's very sensible, and you know what I mean. He's just a good guy, very enjoyable, and fun to listen to.
I actually played a PC game with them the other day. Josh wasn't there, but me and Kevin and Liam Donovan Viper all played a PC game co-op the other day, all because of this club.
Well, hey, might as well. I'm waiting till they do vintage Macintosh. That's when I got Oregon Trail for the Macintosh SE.
The Macintosh though.
Yeah, No, I have a vintage Macintosh right there.
I was quizzing you if you did.
No, it's right here. I have it right here. I bought it at a store for $50. Came with the Oregon Trail and the mouse and everything. I'll put a little picture of it on Twitter.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So whenever you guys play Oregon Trail on that, then I'll jump in. or what was it? Mindstorm? No, not Mindstorm. What was that? That one where you used to push the button, on the old Nokia phones. Well, that was Snake.
I only know Snake. Yeah.
No. On the original the Windows, they used to always have
Minesweeper.
Minesweeper. There you go. Now, whenever you guys want to do Minesweeper, I'll be
a
like guest.
Jazzball better. I don't know if Jazzball was originally a Microsoft
thing,
but
now FreeCell, I put a lot of hours into FreeCell.
Why can't I find Jazzball? I swear it was called Jazzball. Jazzball. J-E-Z.
Yeah, see, that's made up.
No, it's a thing.
All right, we're gonna go.
A video.
Right?
All right.
All right.
Thank you for listening. Thank you, Chris, again for being here, helping me out with this. This will be much less interesting if it was just me here.
That's true.
Tips all suck.
Right, right. Yeah, probably will.
Cha-ching.
Yeah. Let's try to keep it under 6 hours this time, though, huh?
Yeah. No, Charlie, it should be easier, but.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just joking around, but I would.
I was seriously gonna tell you, okay, let's do like a 10-minute episode because I don't feel like it.
Well, let's time it. Once we start, let's not go over an hour. I think that's fair. I mean, if we can wrap it up before an hour, that's good too. But let's keep it under an hour.
Children behave. That's what they say when we're together.